All right, are we all ready? This is the January 8th meeting of the Budget Committee. If you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'm going to introduce the Budget Committee. I'm Stacy Dion, Chair.
Emery Roth, Secretary.
Peter Reiki, I'm the alternate selectman's rep to the Budget Committee. Chuck Hart is not, he will be here tonight.
Barbara Ryan.
Pam Brown.
Paula Pony, Finance Director.
John Cranberg.
Claudine Dyer.
Tristan. All right. So we have a lot to cover this evening in preparation for the budget hearing on Saturday and the warrant article hearing the following Saturday. So we're going to start with if everyone got the minutes from December 18th. Are there any comments? I'll take a motion for approval. Mark, is there a second? Martha? Any further comments, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we have three abstentions. Yep. Okay. All right, so the vote is 6-0 to 3, sorry. All right, old business. We have some departments requesting additional funding requests, and the museum is up first.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lynn, Town Museum, and additional monies we are seeking is police and fire detail for 2 events. One event we're planning is a barn opening event when the barn is completed, and we're not sure, but we might have another event. These are non-fundraising events. They've been put on by the museum committee. Our friends will volunteer to assist us, but these are not fundraising events, which we had put in before, but somehow mistakenly that thought of this that they were going to be fundraising, so I guess it was taken out, and came to our attention that we did not have any police and fire detail in our budget any longer. The only other thing that I would question if it's in our budget or not is a minute taker. I submitted that. We're estimating about $600 for a minute taker, who started for us last evening.
It's like frozen.
So
If you can read on a curve, you're fine.
they presented.
There you go.
There we go. They were one of the first, so October 6th. So the only, right now, the only action that was taken on the museum's budget was the removal of the $5,500 for the details.
Okay.
There was no request for a minute taker. in the budget that was given to the budget committee?
Right, after that, I did contact John, our liaison,
Right.
tell him that,
So my question is that this is your last time to request for additional funds? So how much money are you requesting for a minute taker?
$600.
For a total year? And how much for the celebration?
Well, we want, I have no idea what,
Where
Paul, can you help me with the,
There was a line item.
how much we would need for 2 officers and EMT crews for 2 events? And I'm not sure that we would need them, but if we want to have in the budget in case we do need them, if both Joel and
Right.
Graham say you need details.
So
55,
we,
18, 20? 55, 18, 20?
so for the Heritage Commission, as part of the plane celebration, we put in 2,500 for that celebration. Is that correct? I think that's what we added.
How many hours would the event be?
Cemetery celebration?
Yeah,
It's 2,000.
2,000.
Where did they get that?
2,000?
Yeah, where did that number come from?
The, Ernie calculated it out for, and having a celebration for a few hours with details.
There was a couple events that I was given at the time.
Yeah,
But you came up with, a figure of $2,000 was what?
It wasn't even 2,000, it was, I forget what it was, but I
I'm
had, yeah.
yeah.
I'm seeing the meeting.
In the budget, it's currently $2,000 for that event,
For which event?
for the plane
Oh,
celebration.
yes, that one, yes.
That's in May. And how many hours is Ernie saying for that? I would think that's gonna take about 3 hours, or maybe 4. 'Cause
But
I'm on
that's
that
to
committee.
cover details, planning, everything in
Right.
that
Yeah,
event.
I'm on
that's
that
not
committee.
just details. That's not just details.
Okay,
So
So,
if you
can you-
needed 2 officers and 2 EMTs for 3 hours, it's $1,116.
Times 2?
No,
That's 2.
that's one event.
that's for one event, so how many events? would
That's
you-
what I meant by
2, we
times
want,
2 events,
we want to
yeah.
put in for 2.
So 2,200.
So 2232. For 2 events.
And that is just to cover the details. So do you have a number that you're looking for to request? And then Barbara, go ahead.
Did you want her to answer, or you want to hear me?
So
Okay, so,
I wouldn't think we would need more than the 1,100. Do you think that I should be requesting more money?
So,
You need 1,100 for each event.
Each event, so that's 22.
$2,200.
Right,
and what I'm saying is the 2,000 that Ernie has put request is for the entire event. So if you're putting on an event, are you gonna need porta potties? I'm just,
I don't know. Am I gonna need porta potties if I'm having an event? I don't know. I don't know what the town requires.
That's not a town thing, like, whoever's running the event.
We decide if we need porta potties or not? So I guess I would ask, if we're having it at the barn, are the facilities at town hall available? Because when we've had things at Kingston days before, when we open up the museum complex, we've been allowed to use facilities in town hall. But I don't know. Yes, we can, Tom?
that in the past, Tom is stating that in the past that has been. So those are all details that you would kind of need to.
that's part of mine. Originally, I believe I was the one that voted to take out the detail of the money from there, because it was explained to us that somebody advised you guys to put that in. So, to me, if you don't have all of your facts of what you need and what's required, first of all, I wouldn't support details for that. The second one, you're going if. We don't wanna keep putting money in budgets for if.
I certainly understand that.
So, and it doesn't sound like there's much more planning gone into it.
Right.
So, I'd say no, that's my, there's
But
no.
I mean, but it's not like a city or a larger bureaucracy where if you begin to put an event together in April or May to take place in July, you know, the summertime, you can come back and get that money. This is your one shot at the apple.
At the same token, we have the economy the way it is and people the way they have, they don't, I can hear people screaming now, we're gonna start putting money in because we may, and if we don't, are we gonna take that money and encumber that for next year, or are we gonna shuffle it around and use it for something else? This is part of the
I
process.
don't think the museum has a reputation for doing that.
I didn't say the museum,
Well, that's what
so,
we're talking about.
no kidding, but I'm asking you what we would do with the money if they don't have it.
And
Are we gonna encumber it and save it?
I am fine with just having it for the barn opening. This is something we've been talking about for over a year. We had planned on having a barn opening party in 2024, but the barn was not completed as we were told it would be. So now we're moving it to 2025.
Which is
And
completely different from,
we were not advised that we needed to look into porta potties or anything else. We were just told police and fire detail.
I was.
I mean, shame on me that I didn't look further along, but I didn't.
Well, I mean, things do happen,
So-
but I was not, it was police and fire, and I do believe I voted to remove it because the explanation I got was because a select person advised you to do it. Well, that's not how you do budgets. My opinion.
So,
In order to have, I think what the selectwoman
can you make sure you, please?
was saying was that in order to have an event, you need to have public safety people there and it needs to be funded. So they can't have an event without funding the public safety folks. That's what she was advised.
That is not the understanding. I took it as being advised, but however, this is my opinion. You're entitled to yours. It doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong.
So, I think the issue is that from what it sounds like, that it's not been thoroughly evaluated or planned, or even assessed for the budget. So, in order for it to get put in the budget at this time, you would need somebody from the budget committee to make a motion to add either of these two into the budget. So the $600 was not put into the budget at all, through the budget cycle. So now that we're at this point, if there is somebody on the budget committee who would like to make a motion to add either of those things to the budget, then we can do so. But if not, you will have the ability to, on Saturdays, to try to make a motion or have that discussion in the public forum, and then deliberative if you can get votes to attend and add it at deliberative.
What is the figure for one event?
1,100.
1116.
I'd make a motion to add $1,116 for one event of police.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
Can you clarify what the 2,000 is that was put in? I thought that was for the event.
The 2,000 for the,
That's
that's for the planes,
Oh, the cemetery.
cemetery planes. So my question was,
I'm
put
sorry, you're
$2,000 in for the cemetery, and that was a celebration.
That was a different.
And the other thing is that when we put that money in, we did go to the select board and made sure that the select board agreed that they were having that event. Have you gone to the select board and have they agreed to have this event?
No. Again, there was no, we were not given a procedure to follow. No one advised us. We had to go to the select board.
So that, if this would have happened previous, and you would have said it would, so when we looked at the 5,500, we were told that it was for fundraising. So that is where that is where the budget committee made their decision.
Right, right.
So this is new information, so, to be consistent, I really do think that it should go to the we have a select board member. Would you like to? Because in order to, I think we should be fair, correct? We required the Heritage Commission to go, and I'm not for or against a celebration. I just want to make sure.
At some point in time, there should be, if people are planning events, and we've had events before, we had the book party. Nobody gave us a procedural thing to go through that we didn't go to the select board and ask for permission. Nobody gave us this is.
I think it's because you're putting the money now into the budget. Go ahead.
So, our chairperson is in the audience, and if I'm mistaken, please correct me. But I think when we talked about it briefly, if I'm not mistaken, we have the museum and we have the Friends of the Museum.
Correct.
All right. So, if it's a group that is soliciting an activity that makes money,
Correct.
just like when we have the activities on the planes, then yes, there has to be a paid detail, and it's paid by that association.
Right.
If it's something that is the museum, that's not the Friends of the Museum.
Exactly.
And it's an open, free thing for people to come see this, I believe the select people have decided that that would not require a fee to be charged to the museum, if that makes sense.
No, it has to be in the.
We're not requiring the detail.
But it has to be in your budget, correct?
Yes.
Which is why we want it in the budget. Because it's not gonna be a fundraising event, nothing is gonna be sold there.
Is there gonna be a detail? That's the question.
That would, I believe that's gonna be probably up to the chief of police, and that would be how many people are gonna be there. That's all dictated about that, and this kind of trickles back to the whole bathroom thing.
So the logical thing would be, in case the answer is yes, you need one, you should probably have a budget, right?
Correct.
But how do they know if they need one? I mean, how do you forecast how many people are gonna show up? You know, so.
Agree.
I would assume that at that point in time, that you'd sit down with the police chief and you'd react and work it out accordingly to whatever the circumstances exist and.
Can't there be a line item put into their budget for police details?
Yes.
And if it's not used for police details, then it goes back to the town, general fund. But it's there, it's listed clear, this is police detail only.
And that's for 1,160.
Exactly kind of what I just said. If we don't use it, we'll put it back into the general fund to be used however, if this one needed it in the future for. It's again, we're padding money, and that's how I feel that it is in a lot of people I've talked to. We don't need to keep padding money in case of. Example was, it might not need a detail. So what are we gonna put, $1,100 in on that line? And then the next one for if, it all goes back to the ifs, and shame on the system for not having a better way for you to figure it out.
Agreed.
Somebody should have given you a guidance.
Right, well, yes, and it's probably my fault that I didn't go ask for a guidance. And I totally agree with you, because we have a very small budget, we're very frugal, and we don't want to put money in that we're not gonna use, because shame on us. We're taxpayers too. Why do we want our taxes to go up for something that might not occur?
Right.
But we want this to happen, and we don't want them to say, well, you didn't put in police and fire, so you're gonna have to find money on your own.
But
where are we gonna find money on our own?
But we're also looking at a 65% increase of your budget from last year.
Correct.
And that,
But we have one of the smaller budgets, so that's why it is a 65% increase. If we had a larger budget, it might only be a 12% increase.
But then there's, excuse me,
Go ahead.
Then there's also the issue that you need $600 for an archivist, or what is that?
A minute taker, someone to take minutes. We're all volunteers. We've had the same secretary for 20 years, and because of personal reasons, she can no longer carry out that function.
Yeah,
And there's nobody else on the board that is willing to step up and do that. So we hired someone who many other committees in town are using.
Sorry, Jeff, can you just hold on? I just want to, we need to take these, we have a motion, so we need to take, sorry, I just, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we resolve, so we do have a motion for $1,116 by John for Anne Marie. Are we done that discussion? All right, I'm going to call a vote to add $1,116 to the museum budget. All those in favor? Okay. Opposed? All right. Motion passes 7-3. All right, the other item that they're requesting is $600 for a minute taker. Go ahead.
So the minute taker, was that in the budget previously and it just got mistakenly taken
No, what
out this
happened
year,
was,
or?
our secretary didn't tell us until after this that she's had personal reasons, health concerns, taking care of someone else in her immediate family. So she can't make it to every meeting and feels she cannot continue to take the minutes. So I talked to other committees in town, they all use the same person, committees and boards, so I contacted her to see if she would take the minutes for us.
And she already started, correct?
Yes.
Prior to going to budget committee and prior to getting approval for the money.
Yes, because last night was our first meeting of the year. We meet first Tuesday of the month. Second Tuesday of the month, right?
So,
Maybe it's first Tuesday.
my question is to the select board is, since they have spent money that has not been part of their budget, was approval given?
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
So, it was not appropriated last year, and it was not in their budget for appropriations this year, so normally what happens is if it's not appropriated and it hasn't been approved by the budget committee or the budget, that the select board has the authority to move money for that item. If not, then yeah. I'm just trying to get clarification, because so.
I don't think it's the issue of the $600. I think it's the issue is that a firm amount? And I think our finance director down at the end here could probably answer that, because yes, there are capabilities to move $600 if it's needed, but that would be a question for her as far as the finances go. Get it from someplace else for the $600 for their minute taker for the museum. I mean,
Well, I think
For the
Stacy's-
entire thing, or just the,
Just for this year?
just for the cost from the first of the year until such time the budget becomes effective?
You're worried about 2024, not 2025, right? There's
Correct.
two issues here.
Okay.
The budget in front of us is for next year.
Right,
That's
which
for
doesn't take,
$50 a month, which
Right.
which to me is reasonable. Your concern is, all right, you've already hired somebody, what's happening?
that's exactly, right. So there's two issues. There's the $600 for next year, but you've already hired somebody and started paying them without approval for money or for,
When is your meeting?
setting.
Last night.
So
But-
2025 expenses, not 20.
But the budget hasn't been approved, and
Right.
money until it's in the budget and approved by the voters, and it's a new line item, it should not be started unless the select board authorizes that and understands that if that money does not get approved by the voters, then they would be funding it, because right now you're charging against a line item that doesn't exist, which is not appropriate with our purchasing policy or with the New Hampshire RSAs. So that's a different issue. So I'm going to ask our select board rep to take that to the select board. And then, again, this is an item on whether or not there is somebody from the budget committee that will make a motion to put in $600 for. Okay, John, is there a second?
Second.
Mark raised his hand, so I'm going to go with him. Is there any further discussion?
Just probably more of a comment. This is exactly what I was talking about when we were putting in the line detail and not knowing. We're finding money. Amazing. Wouldn't we all like to be able to find money? It's not about the $600. It's about the whole principle of all of a sudden we can lose money here. I know we don't line item budget, but I think that we have to be conscious of that with what we're putting in and what we're taking out. We all can't just pull money from wherever to pay our bills, and people are screaming. So it's, it's not your $600, it's the way it's done.
This is a systemic issue of money in this from January to March, before we approve our budget, we are running on 2024's budget. If you do not have an appropriation in 2024 in the budget, you should not be spending that money until the voters are approved. This isn't just about the museum, this is about, we need to follow these policies, because now you've hired somebody and now you've come to us after hiring somebody and put us in a very difficult predicament. And I get it's only $600 and it's reasonable, but it's not, to me, it's more about principle and policies and ensuring that we follow these in the town of Kingston, because what if it was $60,000? That is a huge issue, and we're asking our taxpayers to support this on an ongoing basis, and we need to continue that.
I have two questions.
Go ahead.
Question number one is, how much money has already been spent that you're looking for that we need to address right now?
Well, we haven't got an invoice, it was just last night, so I don't know.
Okay, so it's only one night?
Right.
So what I would probably recommend until the voting, I would discontinue that service, because we have no idea what that number is.
Okay.
And we need to, I'll have to go to the board, get their decision, and let you know. And I would say don't continue that, because obviously it's not a budgeted line item. And again, we're spending money that wasn't in the budget. So that's what I would recommend until I talk to the board about this.
Thank you.
Do you think that's something the Friends would cover for you? The January through March expense? Could the Friends of the Museum?
I can ask. They have to vote on how they spend their money, so I can't predict how they would vote. I would hope so, but I can't.
And the town gets to vote on how they spend their money as well, and that hasn't happened yet, so. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? One.
This is for the 6.
This is for the sex.
This is for what?
The $600 for the recording secretary.
Add $600 to the budget.
To add $600 to their current budget.
This is for 25.
This is for 2025. We don't get to talk, so we have, I just want to make sure. All right.
Say it again.
The motion is to add $600 to the museum budget for a recording secretary. All those in favor? 5. Opposed? Motion does not pass at 5-5. All right.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks. All right, police chief.
Hello, everyone. So, ready?
Yep, I'm going. $42.10. We're talking about line items S4.
So, in the 25 proposed budget, I dropped my overtime, I think it was like $1,500. When I did this budget, the proposed budget, I didn't see what was coming after that. And so I have a situation where, the good news is I'm fully staffed again. Thank you, everybody that helped out. Okay, the bad news is I'm still technically down 2 full-time officers because these 2 officers have to drive in a cruiser with another officer because they're not certified. They can't get certified until the end of August because that's the only academy I could get them into, is the main academy, because the January one was full. So that's unfortunate. The other issue I have another officer who's been on medical leave since, I believe it was October. He's still out, he's applying for short-term disability. I don't know when he's coming back. So I'm technically down 3 officers, okay? On the night shifts, we generally have anywhere from 1 to 3 cars because there's so many calls. Now, by having the rookie officer, uncertified officer, in another car, I only have 1 car out. Tonight I'm lucky I've got 2, okay? So I'm looking for an additional $10,000 in my overtime budget. This year, from October to present, the end of December 31st, I blew through a lot of overtime. I told you that was gonna happen. And I think I'm 3,000 plus over, okay? So I've got 8 months that I have to deal with trying to fill shifts. I've got 2 midnight shifts. My lieutenant's taking 5 shifts a week. He's a salary officer, that's good. But I still have 2 overtime midnight shifts that I have to fill. I have 5 part-time officers. I've got 1 out with knee surgery. I have 1 that works 3 days, can work 3 days a week, but not the days I need them. So I'm trying to shuffle everybody around. It's a shuffle game. I have another part-time officer who works in Georgetown full-time. I'm lucky if I get him once a month. And I'm actually considering replacing him in the future if I can't get him to step up, because it's not doing me any favors. So at the end of the day, I'm just looking to throw another $10,000 on my budget. Like I said, I tried to cut back on it, but it didn't work out for some circumstances.
Are there any questions or concerns? Make sure you put your mic on, please.
How's your guys now? They're probably pretty tuckered out. They're busy, they're tired, they're working a lot of hours. I have one full-time officer who's been fabulous.
Are they still fit for duty, but
Oh, absolutely.
you're on the edge?
They're not on the edge. They like the overtime, who doesn't? But they're dedicated, they know what they have to do. Perfect example is I have, vacation time that got carried over. I got 5 weeks of vacation time that they carried over because we were shorthanded and they didn't wanna not be there for us. So
What's the total vacation time of all those officers?
Oh, it varies because of the salaries.
No, the total amount carried over, is that 5 for one officer or 5 for?
Is it 5 officers? Yeah, there's 5 officers that carried over their vacation. That's pretty, it's kind of a compliment. in
But
a
is
weird
that a
way.
total of 5 weeks or a total of 25 weeks?
Total of 5 weeks.
No,
right?
it's not even weeks, one is an hour.
Oh,
one is-
that's what I'm getting at, is what's the total liability? Because you don't want that to be growing to, if you allow 5 guys to carry over 5 weeks apiece, that's 6 months pay.
Yeah, no.
That's what I was asking. The
It's
answer's
just
not.
5 guys and it varied on what they had left at the end
That's
of the
fine.
year.
But, I mean, they stepped up, they sacrificed, and they have to use it by, the end of March, to get it. And that's not gonna do any favors, because if they do take it, I have to fill those shifts.
So, can you extend it beyond March?
I'm sure that the board would help me out on that.
Who would?
The select board, I would ask
Yeah, I
permission.
would ask it, because I manage the stuff in the private sector and healthcare. If you're gonna extend somebody's vacation in this situation, just do it for a year. Because you're just digging, you haven't solved your problem if you've gotta do this, get rid of that vacation time in 3 months. So I would
Yeah, I have,
let them carry it for a
I'm
year.
confident they'll work with me, no question in my mind.
Yeah.
But I'm still down technically 3 officers, till the one on medical leave comes back, and then the 2 officers that have to graduate the academy. So that's 35 weeks worth. The 2 officers are pretty much just in a cruiser. And, you know,
Is this enough? Are you sure you can do it with that?
if I can, I'll come knocking.
Well, but,
I'm confident I can.
You are?
Yeah, I am. I'm pretty frugal, so
Okay.
I'll find a way.
and that's for the year, that's not just till August, this is 14,000, so 24,300 for the entire year.
Say that again?
24,300 in overtime for the entire year. Total.
That's what it'll come to.
That's what it would equal.
It's 14,
Okay.
14.3 now. But that would be
Yeah, okay.
still 4,500 more than the highest it's ever been in the last few years.
So I'm basing it on the overtime,
Yeah.
on some people that make more than others. I went to the low end, a little to the high end, I come up in the middle somewhere. So I'm just trying to do the right thing.
What's the
I
tax?
would consider just extending that, whoever has that ability to make that decision.
2 things.
Yes.
One thing is, I'm 1 of 5.
Yeah.
I agree 100% with you. I don't think there'll be a problem with the board, and I will bring that to the board. I don't think there's gonna be an issue with that. But number 2, I think what the budget committee has to think about, that this town is required to have professional law enforcement service. And if we don't allow our chief to step up and do what he's doing for $10,000, and you start soliciting the sheriff's department and other towns to cover, it's gonna cost a lot more than $10,000. So I think he's actually whittled that rate down to a pretty close number as far as,
I'm not
yeah.
disputing
No,
it.
I'm talking about the vacation, and 2 different things here. Vacation, I don't think this is gonna be an issue, I'll bring it to the board, because we have circumstances here that are out of the norm. So that's very important, but as far as that $10,000 figure, when I hear him say that, it's pretty remarkable he can do it for that.
I just mumbled the question, is that enough money?
Yeah.
I said under my breath, that's a very good question, I don't know if it is. But what I'm thinking is if I have vacation time expiring in the next 8 weeks, I'd be planning vacations. Now, so sooner rather than later, I would just extend that out till December. And hopefully you get it solved in August, right?
I'll get it solved.
Yeah, and then they can take the vacation next fall.
Like I said, I'll bring that to the board. I don't see there being an issue.
Is there a motion to add Mark?
Motion.
Second, Martha.
Second.
Too late, already second.
Is there any further discussion? In favor of adding $10,000 to the budget for overtime, please raise your hand. All in favor?
Put that in a big star next to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Town clerk.
So I am here because I was told I would be able to view the pay matrix before I made any recommendations about salaries for myself and my staff. At this time, I still have not seen the pay matrix. So I'm not sure what you'd like me to do. Would you like me to take the average of the 5 other full-time department heads, which is $110,000, and change my salary to that? I would be more than happy to do that. But then what do I do for the staff? You tell me.
It's frozen.
Hey, no, I'm okay with it. I'm not sharing anything right now. So, I'm going to read an email that I sent to the select board today regarding the wage matrix. And we're gonna talk about wage matrix later this evening, but this is my opinion only. So my email said, I'm gonna do verbatim, driving on the main turnpike has given me time to reevaluate certain items. As the presentation stated, we will not be able to implement the wage matrix for all employees. This is due to multiple employees that are currently tackling more than their job title. I do not feel that implementing the matrix for a portion of employees is in the town's best interest. When there is a proposed solution to bring all employees into the matrix by evaluating their responsibilities and aligning those responsibilities with the appropriate job title. Based on the discussion Monday night and the limited time we have, I would propose adding a cap of 3% for increases across all departments for increased salaries. And I calculated what that meant. It would be $70,000 in salaries and $20,000 in benefits and taxes. And if that money is not spent, it would be returned to the general fund. So currently, and then I also stated that I wanted to clarify that the wage matrix was never voted on, and that the police are using their matrix as a tool, and that fire was given money by the budget committee to align with the local community's wages, and both police and fire are using those calculations from last year as a tool, but are not using any proposed wage matrix at this time. This path forward allows for time for department heads to evaluate those employees that are outside of the matrix and to align job title and responsibilities. This will also make a smoother transition if we implement something for all employees and not just those who fit in the matrix or don't fit in the matrix. This is my personal opinion, does not represent the feelings of the wage matrix committee or budget committee. This is just my opinion from working on budget committee and working on the wage matrix, that we're requested for help to fix the employees that were outside the matrix, and we've talked about these certain positions that are multiple positions that are difficult to put into the wage matrix, and if you use job title to job title, they're outside of what their calculation is. And so that has gone to the select board. I don't know if you would like to respond to it, because I agree, but I think we need to make sure that we're doing this for all departments.
Thank you, Chairperson.
That's why you guys pay me the big bucks. Couple things. And I responded to Mrs. Dion's email because I've been thinking with a couple of my colleagues that what we should do. I accept the fact that we did not endorse officially the matrices for both the police and the fire. And the police and fire have been using them to adjust the wages and make them competitive so they can hire appropriately and be able to move their staff accordingly. We've struggled a lot. I served on the matrix committee, and we struggled a lot with gathering the data to look at the town hall employees and public works. And kudos to Stacy Dion and Paula Mahoney for the yeoman's work they both have done. Stacy maintaining the files alone, not that Paula does it, but they've done a tremendous amount of work. And we had some technical difficulties last week at the select board meeting, and were unable to pull out the matrix graph for town hall and for DPW. Now, we know for DPW that there was a lot of wages that came in higher, above the average. And the reasoning is the multitude of roles each person plays. So very hard to compare apples with oranges when you're trying to give raises on a matrix. So what I proposed, some would not get, I mean, everyone's getting the 3.2 COLA, that's already in place. I'm not sure I don't know how all my colleagues would feel, but I'm not sure I would want a carte blanche at 3% to everybody's wages above that. That's not something I could support. But I do feel there are definitely some adjustments that need to be made for the multiple tasks, if you will, that our staff does. We're very lucky in Kingston because we probably have some of the most talented employees in Rockingham County. And I look at the Public Works Department in particular because they can repair the trucks and we don't have to send things out quite so much. And a lot of the staff there have the skill sets to do a little bit more. But so does the town hall. I mean, you might have I'll take Susan, who's an administrative assistant to the select board. She writes a great letter. I mean, you couldn't pay enough money to some people to write the kinds of letters that she puts out. You've got a building inspector who's doing code enforcing, and health officer, and mitigation, customer service. I mean, we do a lot of coverage. So I don't think we need 70,000. I would propose to my colleagues that we put in $30,000, and I wanted to put in a contingency because I have no idea where it would go, and that it would be returned to the voters. I would ascertain to the budget committee that I will give you a breakdown of how we spent that $30,000, if we spent it at all. I'm sure we're going to spend some of it, don't get me wrong. But out of respect to Mrs. Ryan's concerns, that money should go back, because we would not have had this discussion had we had the matrix done a little bit earlier. It was a monumental task. I can't even begin to describe to you the amount of work that went into this, and the discussions that were in trying to find out who did what. Stacy and I met with a couple of staff members and in the town hall office on the assessing side, and we were amazed at the diversity of the tasks. She's not a clerk. Now as a clerk, she's in the 95 percentile, but for the skill sets that she provides the town, she's not. She's probably about median. So those, I guess I'm asking you to support an idea that to go with the $30,000 in the contingency, specifically earmarked for salary increases only, to be returned to the taxpayers if unspent over the remainder of the year.
And that 30,000 is only for town hall and DPW.
That's correct. That is correct. Because everything else is built in on the matrices for both police and fire. And we'll have to make sure that the board endorses those two matrices, because it's working. It's working in terms of competitive salary rates for the police and the fire. Police, and I'm thankful to the budget committee for that extra 30,000 boost you gave us last year to help the firemen get back up. It's going to get more interesting as the ambulance thing works out, but that's another story for another time.
The only thing I'd like to add to that is, they both have to be looked at. Probably department heads are gonna help us look at them. We have to figure these out with the help probably of Paul in finance and something from you for the matrix, because you've been around and done the background. But I do use caution when your idea of just throwing out a 3% across the board to everybody.
So it was up to 3%.
Oh, I thought you said
And
3%.
not 3% to everything,
Yeah.
up to 3%.
Yeah, 'cause
And the reason I picked that number is because most of the steps in the matrix are about 3%, give or take. So when I was thinking about this, what happens is that the matrix already takes care of COLA. So we've got like COLA that's in the budget, plus if we use the current numbers, that would already take into consideration COLA. So at this point, if we use the matrix numbers, that would not, the COLA would come out of that budget line item. So it gets a little, so the matrix already took into consideration 3.2% COLA for 2025. So those numbers would not, so COLA that's in the budget would not be given to that department. But that's not how we set up the budget. So when you start to tease out all of the, and I'll just use police. Police has their adjustments in their line item, and they have their COLA. And when I took a look at all the numbers, we're looking at this, and I think there's more steps that need to be done before we should be implementing something that we know we have to go back and evaluate certain employees. And look, I get it. It was a lot of work. It is a lot to do, but if we know, and this is just how I'm thinking, if we know there's one person in the town, let's say it's a police officer, that is their job description, and we don't give them, and they leave, and then we lose a position. And if we look at this in the entirety of this department's okay, we don't know about this department, but what we found during the matrix study is that those job titles don't align with their rules and responsibilities, that they were given additional money, not given change in job titles. That is not a good place to be able to implement something that is supposed to compare job titles and where you are in the wage matrix. And so my recommendation, personal recommendation, is that we look at this and say, raises are, we cap the total amount across the board until we can evaluate each employee, make sure they have the proper job title and proper job description. We've requested this a few times, And we're at a point where if we try to do it in this, I just look at it as, if we don't take control of this and say, this is where we are, we need to make sure we're doing this, then we're doing what we were doing in the past, and we're being, to use someone's language, willy-nilly on how we give raises and promotions. So if we set aside 3%, maximum 3%, plus the 20,000, because we need to take into consideration taxes and all of that, because those numbers have already been calculated. If we set aside that money, we have from now until March, or until April 1st, to get those job positions evaluated, to get everything approved, and to make sure we're implementing something. And we have the money set aside if the budget passes to move forward. My opinion only. But
So let me ask this, aren't there raises for a fair number of people, positions built into this budget now?
fire and police and building inspector.
But no one else?
That's correct.
Well, the library has raises in there, right?
The library does,
The
but the
library's
that's,
We don't do anything with the library, that's their own.
Right, no, I'm just trying to understand the budget, that's, the bigger picture.
If you think 70,000 is the number, but I'm not in favor of going back and redoing police and fire and library, no way.
library wouldn't be.
And you know what? It's only 8 weeks between now and April 1st, and I don't
Get
know
it
how.
done for a year.
But, excuse me?
Nothing, sorry.
You know, who's gonna do all that? I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not gonna happen in 8 weeks. I'll tell you that for sure.
But
Go ahead.
weren't we kind of handed a mandate a year ago at budget that this would be completed? The matrix would be in place for the next budget.
The mandate was handed to the select board. That's what the budget committee wanted. And we have been diligently doing that. We're not spending millions of dollars or tens of hundreds of thousands for consulting yet.
So
We've got volunteers doing it.
I understand.
So yeah, we thought we would be done, Claudine. We really did think we'd be done.
and we had a lot of difficulty with getting.
So the reason you have difficulty respectfully is you set yourself up an impossible task. Now, the only department that, it's just metaphysically impossible. I'm not being critical, you're just trying to do something that's impossible. I'm familiar because I've done the highway department budget for 3 years, and you refer to that, the specialties they have. Some of them need special licenses. They're issued by federal government and by the state government. Some of them, as a result of that, are subject to periodic drug testing. All of them that have those types of requirements, what was happening is that they were leaving and getting $15, $18, $20 an hour more from the private sector, or getting $15 plus a much more generous pension and health insurance by going 15 miles over the border. So that's not going to work into your matrix, and there are going to be the nature of human beings being human beings. People in other departments are going to look at what's going on in DPW and actually say, what's going on there? Why are they getting all that money? Well, the reason is that's the one department that's subject to the exigencies of the free market. The private sector wants those guys in their qualifications. So the matrix is a great theory. It's a great idea. In a lot of union jobs, it will work. And I know this isn't a union context, but we're dealing with, sometimes I think, having dealt with public sector unions and a member of 2 of them, sometimes I think we'd be better off if we had unions. But everybody would be, I know it. But it's a lot, let me tell you, you don't go round and round like we've done on this issue. So what I'm hearing from Ellie, and I think it's probably practical, she's not happy to say it, but it's really not doable to get this done in the next couple of months. And what I'm sensing here is you hung back thinking this matrix was going to come.
And
right.
Tammy has every right to be upset because she did hang back. She did not put any increases for any respective staff members. And that's on the select board, because we asked her to wait. And she has every right to
No,
get something.
I agree. So, what,
So I'll ask for the $70,000 in contingency and then, but earmarked.
But then police and fire have to be reassessed.
See, I don't wanna do that.
They're not.
Also,
I don't, I think they should, please,
so
tell me why
when
they should.
we, as a budget committee, 2 years ago, when we first started talking about a wage matrix and bringing everybody into line, this is exactly the problem that we foresaw happening, is that this is such a small town that everybody knows what job everybody is in, and you can figure out from this budget what each person is getting paid. And with the pay for performance, it was about, the danger was that there was going to be serious favoritism, some people got overlooked, and that would provide discourse within the town operations. And that was what we didn't want to happen, and that's why the wage matrix was suggested. Now, the problem right now is how do we fix this? Because we've tried to go to the wage matrix and it didn't work. And now we have the immediate problem for this year's budget, that what do we do on this town clerk budget line item? Because we all know that she's worth more than what is right here, because everyone else has gotten raises and she hasn't. And if we do a 3%, that's only going to bring her up $2,500 each year, which means that to get to 110, it's gonna take 10 years. And then everybody else is gonna be farther above that in 10 years. So how do we solve that this year without going crazy overboard on the taxpayers? And that's what we have to figure out.
Which
you
is,
have figures on other towns, I don't expect.
That's what the pay matrix was supposed to do.
it has,
But you
And
have
ask them.
figures for your job on other towns.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah. This is probably the time.
Right, I mean, I've been waiting for that, so I haven't updated them in quite a while. I did give the pay matrix committee the information I had back, what, Claudine, 6-9 months ago when we sat together. So,
Let me make it, how many other jobs besides you would be in your budget tonight? Four, there's 5 altogether.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. 4 altogether,
4 including you?
yes.
What do you want to do? With
Gail?
What do you want to do with the other 3?
No, I have Holly, Caitlin, Shannon, and me. Gail retired.
Okay. You didn't get
4.
invited to that retirement party.
No, it hasn't come up yet.
It was a good one. What do you want to do with the other 3?
What are my options? I've been waiting for the pay matrix, so I haven't done anything.
Trust me.
Okay.
What would you like to do with the 3 positions besides your own?
I would,
I totally agree.
My-
I think you're putting her on the spot, and that's not
How
fair.
do we want to solve the problem?
Well, I don't know, you seem to have a lot of the answers, but I think it's unfair to put her on the spot
so my,
of what she should do. She already said it, 100-something thousand according to what the other
100.
departments had made. Gibby, isn't that what you said in the beginning?
what I said was, there are 5 full-time department heads besides me. The average salary is $110,000 for last year. For this coming year, it will be $114,000.
So why don't you tell me?
So my salary, I'm all by myself, so everyone knows what I make. Everyone knows what everyone makes. It's in the annual
It's in the
report.
annual
So-
report. Well, it's in the annual report. Yeah.
I still think we should put in, I think the budget should put in X amount of dollars for salary increases above and beyond the COLA that need to be adjusted based on duties and so forth. So it can't be 30,000 because just one department head alone would screw that up. If it went through. I mean, I'm not making any suggestion what the increases should be. can't do that. I don't have the numbers in front of, we don't have evaluations in front of us. You can't just do a couple. We can set aside a sum of money to be earmarked specifically for increases between now and April 1st, assuming the budget gets passed in March. That's what.
Pam, did you want to speak?
So I wasn't here for the meeting, the select board meeting, but I did watch it on YouTube. And I can't tell you how frustrated I was by that meeting. We do need transparency when it comes to salaries, I agree, but who's to say that other towns aren't enjoying hidden productivity benefits despite the nominal job description we receive from those towns? So to say our town is unique, I think is unfair to many towns. And I figured what would happen at the meeting, at the select board meeting, was we'd say, okay, here are the wage matrix findings. Take it back to your departments, match up your employees with the job descriptions we have, and don't embellish, say do this, do that, just look at the range. If you're within the range and you feel that they deserve a merit increase, then add that to your budget, period. But if we're gonna argue about what is a job description, oh, they do this, they do that, they're certified, well, if we're near the high end of the range, then call some of the towns in the long run, not now, but, and ask them, you have pretty highly paid employees across the range we've seen. Do they have extra certificates or extra training, extra skills, and then see if that's what our employees have. And then that'll account for what they're paid. But I think it's ridiculous that we're sitting here saying, oh, well, we really don't know what their worth is because they do many things. Well, many people do many things in some towns. So I'm not saying that the pay is perfect where it is, but I don't think it's an impossible task. I'm sorry. And Tammy, you're probably grossly underpaid. Let me just add that too.
It's not probably.
So I was on the wage matrix committee at the beginning, and I was liaison with the town clerk, and I called town clerks all over that were within our range, you know, for population, commutability, the whole 9 yards. And there is no lie that it's hard to put words to a job description, especially here where everybody fills in for everybody else. There's not too much that everybody cannot do based on their abilities and their residencies and stuff like that. Other towns do it totally different. Other towns have town managers. It's like putting a square peg into a round hole. So I laud the Matrix Committee for attempting to put this all together. And the fact that they were able to do something, I just threw up my hands and said, I'm overstressed, I can't do this anymore. And I had to withdraw. But they stuck with it, and God bless them for doing it. It's not as simple as it seems when you get into the minutia of what these, and that was just town clerk. That wasn't even going across the hall to see what the other departments.
So if you look at the town clerk, well, the town, so a lot of communities our size have a town clerk, and they have a tax collector. Mm-hmm. And they have an office that has that has additional staff for the town clerk and additional staff for the tax collector. We have not had to do that because we have employees that are willing to do extra things, but when you're trying to put the square peg into the round hole, it doesn't align for certain departments. So it's just, we know that for the town clerk, tax collector, we know that for other people in the town. So but there are other positions and other job titles that probably better align with some of what people are doing. And when we did the first assessment, when we did the initial data, it felt very lopsided, and we continued to get the data, and there was certain people, and it's still showing up as outside. And if you actually look at what the job title is and what their roles and responsibilities are, they don't align. There was some org charts that came through that people wanted to change job titles and get through that, and I think, in my opinion from doing this for a year and a half, I presented that on Monday night, that we have limitations, these are our limitations, and until those, just my opinion, until those limitations are either addressed or a decision is made. It's not the wage matrix committee decision. We have this, these are our limitations. We need direction to say these positions, these people who have positions that are combined positions, tell us what to do with them. Is it a bonus? Is it stipends? Is it a hybrid? We've asked for that, some of that direction before, and just not where we're at.
So what do we do tonight?
So there's
no motion on the floor.
There's no motion.
So here's my recommendation. So in the past, because I am elected, I can put a number in that line item, in that line. And then the salary full-time, that would be, put that in your pile of, to be considered.
Okay. I'm with you. In other words, separate out the,
I am, yeah.
right, tax collectors, decide on the TCTP.
There's no TP here.
You know I love you, you do know that.
So I guess, do you have a recommendation for your salary?
Well, let's see, the average salary for a department head, 4 of which are male, get $110,000. Last year, 85.
85,000.
So, and this year it's 114,
This coming year will be 114.
put in 114. Why not? Well, she does. Second.
Wow.
That's my motion.
So there's a motion on the floor for town clerk, tax collector, for a salary of $114,000.
Dinner. You're nice.
And Pam seconded.
Yep, and it's been seconded.
So just for the record, that'll be an increase of how much money?
It will be 30,000. It's 85, her current is 80, well, her current salary.
It's an additional 28,000 from what's there right now.
Yep.
Plus the benefit impact.
Plus there'll be a benefit impact and a tax impact.
And now what about the other 3 people on your staff?
That's what my suggestion was, to
leave
put
it.
to change my number, and then theirs would be in that pool of money that would be decided in the next 2 months.
These would be your other employees?
My 3 employees, my 3 staff. I'm sorry?
Who else is in that pool of money?
So the proposed from the select board would be town hall employees and DPW.
What's the proposal?
Please.
This is nuts.
So would that money be equivalent to the informal pay matrices that the fire department and the police have? Because you said it's about 3%. So not knowing what the matrix is for town hall, well, for any of them, it would be very inequitable to give two departments, according to a matrix, raises, and not the other employees an equivalent percentage. So how many employees are we talking in town hall and public works that don't fall outside of the matrix? And then if it's a 3.5 or 3.8% the departments are getting that they've already put into their budget, it should be the same for these other employees. So I don't know what that number is, but you'd have to know their salaries and et cetera, et cetera.
And you'd have to do the evaluations.
Why? What evaluations?
Why would you give a carte blanche 3 or 4%?
Well, we're giving it to the other folks.
No, they're not.
No, you're not.
It's factored into their budget.
It's not carte blanche.
It's factored into their budget, so we need to.
Doesn't mean it has to go to them.
But what I'm saying is, we need to make sure that the right amount of money is set aside for those other employees. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So we need to, so $30,000 might not be enough.
Which is why I wrote the email today, because I took 3% of the current salaries. I just took that number and then calculated benefits and Social Security and came up with that number, but it would be for all. It would be one pool of money for all employees.
And what doesn't get used goes back to the voters.
And what doesn't get used goes back to the voters.
So then what the two departments put into the budget, they're gonna take that out and you're gonna.
It would get leveled out.
Okay. Because that's the only, without implementing a wage matrix across the entire town, that we have to come up with something that's fair and equitable for all employees.
Which is, driving and looking at pine trees yesterday, that was what I was thinking.
Well, until it can be implemented for everybody, it shouldn't be implemented for anybody. Well,
So let me I just want to make sure one thing. The current wage for this job is approximately $83,000.
For me?
Yeah.
85.
85.
Yes.
And the proposal is for it to go to 114.
That's the current motion on that.
Okay, so that's an increase of over 35%, right?
And that
Yep.
represents her with the other department heads.
So is that a standard in town government in New Hampshire that all department heads make approximately the same?
No.
So one of the things that one of the things that was very expensive, but very relaxing for me was that the marketplace was showing me in the police and fire departments that we were not paying enough. We had people that we were training and they were leaving. It made no logical sense not to bring those up by whatever percent. I never bothered to figure what the percent was. I heard from both chiefs the hourly rates that we were paying. I heard the hourly rates that other towns were paying, and then I heard specific anecdotal information about the training process and how people were leaving and what times they were going to. So very naturally, the marketplace and a free society told me, we must increase these in order to provide basic public safety to whatever level it is. I don't even remember what they were, it had to be done. So I asked a question earlier, it wasn't really fair because I don't expect to have an answer, but just because there are department heads of whatever type making X amount of dollars, I don't think that means all department heads should make that. I mean, should the librarian make that? Of course not. We judged that when we went out into the competitive marketplace on what other librarians were making. So, and I think the big thing at the end of this all, we must keep, remember the end goal is to pass the budget. And
be competitive with the other towns.
And I think this.
What are the other towns? She has you have some
Yeah, what are
numbers.
the rates in the other towns for town collector and
I
tax
don't
man?
have that information because I was counting on the pay matrix to tell me that. Maybe Stacy can tell you that.
Okay, do we have any of those numbers?
town clerk ranges from 56,000 to 60,000, approximately. But then, and then the tax collector would probably be another. So, and that's where this gets, it goes from 36,000 to 114,000.
Do you have any where they do it, as she does, they do both positions together?
Yep, that ranges from 77,000 to 81,000.
So the range is 77 to 81, and we're,
At 81.
and look, everybody knows everybody here. This is not an easy conversation to have, but this is what we're supposed to have, because public safety executives and I guess the high make X that we're supposed to pay 30,000 more. Is that in the
Right
average?
now, it's 28,000. Well, the 114 is 28,000 higher than the current salary.
So there's a town that's paying just a tax collector 114, and the highest that a town is paying to do both jobs was 81. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
What doesn't make sense?
Which is why the wage matrix is having so much trouble. Yeah.
That's a bingo.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is, and it depends on how many hours they're open. And, because it comes down to that. There are tax collectors, town clerks that are open 2 days a week. And so they get paid appropriate to the number of hours they support. They separate. So they may not be, the town clerk may not have all the regulations and have to deal with the voting. So you've got, all of them do that, but it all gets very complicated very quickly. And we have a position that is currently doing the two jobs. So if we said, oh, we have a tax collector open from, I'm gonna screw this up, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Monday, and 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and 8 a.m. to noon on Friday, and then they support all these other departments by collecting money and doing this, how do we analyze that and fit it into the round hole when we have a square peg? And if you look at those numbers, if you look at that number and you look at the comparison to other department heads, it's not equitable. It's just, it's difficult to put into, which is why when I presented on Monday night, there was a lot of limitations, and those limitations are glaring because of the way that we've created certain positions. So if Tammy was just the town clerk, she would be making what she'd be making now.
John, truthfully, I came up with that number out of frustration, because...
Well, I wish I'd known that.
No,
I mean,
I said that because I've been waiting for the pay matrix. So I came up with that number.
But you see what happens in a group like this. They upped you.
I love
They
it.
raised you. Of course you do.
I do feel that I am underpaid. I work very hard. I've been here for 20 years. I've been a department head longer than any other department head in this town. I am loyal, and I'm dedicated, and I run a great ship.
Here.
All of that is true.
And I'll throw in my 2 cents worth. I've worked under Tammy on how many elections at this point? Nobody works harder on election day to have the best, fair election, I think, in the state. Not that I've got any other experience to compare it to, but she sun up to sundown the week before, just getting it done.
So I just want to go back to the motion that's on the floor.
Yeah.
The current motion on the floor, Martha and Pam, is an increase to the salary line of to 114,000.
So on the current motion, I don't think it was lost on, especially any of the women at this table, that when we compare those department heads, only one of those department heads is female and is grossly underpaid. And I think it was a little bit of a gut check that we upped her to be equal to the average. Now, from a standpoint of, we need this budget to pass the taxpayers. Maybe pulling that back just a little bit so that you're in line into the average of those, or close to within the median range of those other department heads, so that it does look a little bit more equitable and not sexist. But I don't know that putting it to the highest end of it is the way we want to go from a budgetary standpoint.
I will tell you that I did not put myself in for a raise last year.
Right.
For that same reason. I'm not greedy, I'm not.
But you can be, it's okay.
If we advertise the position that you have now to be clerk, tax collector, and help run elections, I don't think we could recruit anyone for less than $95,000 stardom, roughly, because that is a lot of institutional knowledge and, you know, diversity of skills and tasks required, so, and also longevity bonus and all the merit pay you built up. I'm still seconding this motion. Thank you.
So I'd like to put an amended motion that we were going to raise it to 114. If we raise it to 104, it kind of splits in the middle a little bit.
That would have to. So we now have two motions. Is there a second?
She's amended, we need a second.
We need a
It's
second.
an amendment to the first one.
Yep. Is there a second to the 104? Second. Okay. All right, so the motion is still on the floor for a tax collector.
I am flattered, I really appreciate your support, I really do. But I would be more than happy to take the suggested 104. I would be ecstatic. And I don't want my taxes to go up. I don't want your taxes to go up.
You sure you're?
I would never.
You're the one that twisted my arm to be on the voting
I
thing.
would-
You know what?
All right, all right.
I'll
That
second.
is a lot.
Okay, wait.
I'll second.
Claudine's good second the 104. Okay. All right. All right, so we have the amended motion. Is there any further discussion? We're just looking at the tax collector thing. Any?
So that's a 25% raise, right?
Yes.
Do you know what it is? I'm trying to figure it in my head.
Hold on.
23%.
$25.9.
Does that include the benefits?
But no,
What's that?
we'd have to discuss that. Because if that is the increased wage, do we not add COLA to that? Does that include COLA?
Does that need to be part of the motion?
It would need to be part of the motion.
So the 104 would be inclusive of the COLA raise? Is that how we'd word that?
If that's what you're thinking. I don't want to put I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. Is that your,
Yeah, I think
are
that's
you still
valid.
second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? right. All those in favor of increasing the town clerk, tax collector salary to 104, inclusive of COLA for the year 2025, please raise your hand. All right. All those opposed? Abstentions? Motion is 5-4-1.
So the amendment passes. You amended your original motion of 114 to 104,
Including
so
COLA.
now, the motion on the floor is for 114.
The motion on the floor is for, right, so now there's a motion on the floor. The amended one,
It's not, the amended one is on the floor. 'cause
the
it
amended
passed.
one passed with a vote of 5-4-1. There is the other amendment, but we amended it, so we're done. We're
It's
done.
amended, now that you
Done.
have a new motion.
All right, so now we have to,
You
well,
have to vote on the motion as amended.
we did.
I thought
That
we
was the
just did.
5-4-1.
All you voted on was the amendment. You voted to amend the amount
Okay.
to 104. Now you have to vote on whether or not to move that 104
To the
into
budget. Okay. Motion. This is getting complicated.
No, it's not.
Motion and second still?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, right, that's abstain. Sorry. You have. And, all right, so, motion passes 6-4. What? It's at 104, but then, COLA will need to be reduced,
But the salary as well.
correct? I just put it in, I'll make sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a lovely evening.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
It should go in the pot.
It's going in the pot.
right.
Staff, what about the staff?
Well,
It's
wait,
going
wait,
in the
wait,
pot.
then we did that, we took care of that motion. This is a separate thing. Her salary is separate, because she's the only voted
Only full-time elected
employee, yes. We need to further discuss, what goes into, if or how we would give increases to employees.
So the discussion was putting it into the executive, right?
So the chair of the select board has, requested $30,000 to put into the executive, into the contingency fund for use to town hall and DPW, and to leave the fire and the police and everyone else where they are. In town hall would exclude the building inspector, because that raise was already put into the budget.
So how many individuals is that total?
3, 4, 5, 5. 7 in the town hall, and how many in DPW? 7. Sorry, how, are there 8?
Road agent, director, DPW,
That makes them 8. So we're talking about
15 people.
We're talking about 15 people.
Would it include, it wouldn't include any department heads, right?
It would include, just Paula. Not just Paula, but Paula. Sorry.
Are you part of the 7 for the town hall?
Yes.
Wouldn't this also include this salary, it has to be the highest salary range for the director of public works? I don't know what that line item is now, but we do have that position open with the salary range, so that's
So
gonna have to be adjusted.
currently in the budget, it was the salary of the current, what's in the budget is the current salary of the director of public works that is no longer, it's that salary. The contractual salary of that.
So that's what's still in there now?
Correct.
So we have a contingency fund in there?
There is a contingency fund, hold on. Where is the contingency fund? Is that in the first, that's in the, no, it's a contingency fund under the executive budget.
So just for the record, we're looking at, if it's evened out, it's $2,000 per person for those 15 people.
Correct, which if that's the way it goes, that would also have to back out in benefits and taxes, because that would be the full amount. So if that's the money that gets added, it would be $2,000 total, but that would also, the taxes and benefits would come out of that, so it would be $2,000 per person. Where's the contingency? But it has been,
So right now, the contingency fund is at 50.
the contingency fund is at 50, it would get added to, the proposal from the floor is to add $30,000.
But that, it would,
That would be all inclusive, salary, benefits, taxes.
but none of that 50 would be included in any salary distribution.
Correct, it would just be the 30.
Over 15 employees.
Mhm. So it doesn't end up being then 20, Paula, what is the percentage of, what's the taxes that comes out? What's the social, it's 28%, correct? No, Social Security and, because all of that's impacted. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I,
Yeah.
sorry, can I speak now?
Yes, you can.
I didn't know when I could. I think when the board discussed these, there are certain departments that, due to the wage matrix, they explained that some people capped at certain numbers. Other people need to be brought up a little bit. So I think, I don't think it's fair to say that you're gonna take $30,000 divided by 15 and throw $2,000 and minus the deductions. I think it's gonna be, some people will receive X amount of dollars, some people may not, they may be where they're supposed to be at, they're all gonna receive the COLA. and then the balance would be returned to the town. That's my understanding from the selectmen's point of view, and from the budget committee, the representative, I'm sorry, the chair, that I just don't think they're gonna take that number and just throw it out there. I think that's a working number that they came up with.
Yeah,
If I believe that's correct.
So
It takes some work.
so the problem is that if we do that, it doesn't, that money doesn't take into consideration benefits and taxes. So if that is how they would go in that direction, then that's how it would calculate out, and it would be that amount of money. And like I said, I emailed the select board kind of what I was thinking to be fair and equitable across all departments at this time. But that's the proposal right now. So I guess, is there any other recommendations for what to do for all the town's employees?
It's kind of hard, you know, to just throw a number without knowing the employees to whom it would be applicable, what their salaries already are.
So that's what my head was doing, which is why
Between taxes and retirement, it's for non-police or fire.
Yep.
21%.
21%.
That's just for taxes and retirement.
So.
It's higher for police and fire.
Yeah, I just did, because those two
around.
departments we're talking about don't have, is the same percentage.
So if you divide it by 4, you'd be very close.
Yeah.
So what is it, 30,000?
30,000 times
So
15.
approximately 7,000 to 7,500 would be for taxes, so it'd only be about 20 to 23,000
For all,
for raises.
for raises, for 15
For
people.
increases.
Yep. I think it depends on what your starting salary is.
And no impact on COLA.
That is what we need to discuss, right?
Do we need a motion
We need a motion
to do the 30,000?
to do the 30,000, because it was a request from the,
Okay, so I'll put the motion out so that we can vote.
motion.
Inclusive of taxes and exclusive of COLA?
I think that's the proposal, right? Includes 30,000 inclusive of taxes and benefits, but does not include COLA.
COLA's already in the budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
COLA is already budgeted.
Yep.
It does not include taxes. I was just guessing. Because it wasn't going to be everybody, that was the point. Was not, it was an educated guess, but that's all it was. You can change the number, make it 40. Be concerned about missing something.
Are you still putting
Yeah,
that
the
motion?
30,000 salary benefits.
Yep.
And if we can't do taxes, if we could, either way.
Yep, it's adding 30,000 to the contingency, just so that we can, is there a second?
For discussion.
For discussion. Further discussion on the motion.
So, just so I'm clear, because there's been so much, and I feel as though personally my last vote, I guess I wasn't in tune very well, because is Tammy's line raised just Tammy? And now you're looking about this? Okay, so and then it's not everybody, and it has not, let's just talk the position.
Correct.
I don't like to talk about the person, because I think she's wonderful. But, that's gonna be a hard sell to voters, that percentage of a raise. And now we quabbled over $600, and my vote was because of the way it was done, not the 600, but I'm thinking, how do you sit there knowing you asked for a minute taker, and we wiped it off, but yet we give, what, a 20-something% raise to the position of town clerk / tax collector. Now we're back to maybe there's 7 employees. So is everybody in town getting a raise above and beyond a COLA?
No.
Well, how do you think that's gonna set? You're gonna really set off some bells and whistles to town employees. What makes...
Which is why 2 years ago we asked for the wage matrix. To
I
avoid this
understand
situation.
that.
And I think-
And I started out with the ways metrics, and you don't want me to go with what I originally thought that.
So I believe police and fire are kind of where they need to be if the matrix was in place.
Right.
So they're not gonna have anything to say about this at all.
Okay, I'm excluding police and fire,
Okay.
but I'm thinking, is that and highway is part of this?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe highway employee number 1 isn't gonna get anything, and highway number 2 is gonna get way up here.
To 1,500.
Don't you think you're gonna lose highway 1, 2, because nobody else got, and who's gonna make that decision?
The selectmen and the department head.
And what if there's,
Yeah, this is exactly what happened a couple of years ago when the budget committee took out pay per performance, because what was happening was there was pay per performance, there was the departments were putting in departmental raises, and there was COLA. And we said, we cut all of it out, and then we had a thing that said you need to come up with a better, for example, a pay matrix, so that we are doing the same thing across every single department, and we're not giving one department big raises and another department not getting big raises.
right now.
Well, I'm not disagreeing, because that is what, you know, it needs to be teased out a little more. It needs to have a better understanding, and I mean, I've been on that wage matrix for a very long time, and my opinion is to just take a pause right now until we have those things figured out. Yeah.
The one issue with taking a pause, though, is that I think some of the departments, like the town clerk's office, have taken a pause for 1 to probably 3 years. They thought that we were going to bring in this wage matrix and that would bring them up, and they held back on doing any raises, where other departments did not do that. So even though this year we might be giving a raise to one department, the other departments got it last year and town clerk didn't, it still might not put out all of those fires that you were talking about. But there is at least a little bit of reasoning.
The town clerk position / tax collector. That's still a pretty big hefty
It's a
jump.
huge raise.
It's a huge
Which is
raise.
why I tried to drop it down so it made a little bit more sense to
But,
the voter.
and then, how are I know they all get along, but just say, you know, her office 1, 2, and 3, and 4. How are they gonna feel knowing she got a 23% and, I don't know, finance director got 3? That builds, and it's like, you know, old town gossip through the town. This one says this one makes this one makes that, and then they all add a spin to it. I just, personally, I see a can of worms opening up worse than it's already.
Yeah, and we've been saying that.
Maybe so, but it doesn't mean it has to continue that way.
Well, we have to fix it this year, so this year it does, unless you're gonna get that wage matrix done.
But you said you got, this is what you went through last year, so what happened between last year and now?
They did attempt it, which they hadn't done in the past, so we at least got some information, and it's some information and some ranges from some other towns to see where we stood. And it did work well in police and fire and gave them a lot of very usable information to really base salaries off of.
But like John said, and never,
No, go ahead.
just what I was, and we don't always agree by any.
In that range, but it's not, just when you look at the data that came out of the wage matrix, the data itself isn't logical. Whereas when we did the police and the fire, the information was a lot more logical because the job is a little bit more straightforward.
Well, it would be a little bit more logical if we knew what towns were paying those, you know, what towns were being paid that. I mean, what town was paying for the, you know, the dual role.
I think the wage matrix has that information.
What town was paying the, you know, the clerk for that, you know, the tax clerk for that much money.
Right.
I mean, if you're talking Wyndham, yeah, I could see them paying $110,000 for one position. But if you're talking about Hampstead, they're probably paying comparable to the $77,000 for a dual.
And without those numbers,
Without
we
no,
can't
but
make those determinations.
without that information, we don't know.
Exactly.
So.
I don't think we went as far west as Wyndham, did we?
Are we not afraid of the budget not passing when we go to default budget?
Absolutely.
Because
That's why I amended that motion.
we get numbers in here, we haven't even gotten through.
Yeah, I know. So this is the thing, right? We struggle with this all the time. It is a majority of our budget is salaries, benefits. We've talked about this over and over again. Our majority of our budget is employees, what we pay them. We walk a fine line of paying them appropriately to keep them in the position and balancing what or how far our taxes go up. So we've done a really tight job this year. Until tonight, our budget was, without including the grant money, was up 2.8%, right? We're talking about below what the cost of living is in the area. I think that we've done a great job. The departments have done a great job of putting this budget together. We're adding some amount of money to be divided amongst the departments in an equitable manner, however, so we're in a pickle. We're gonna put money into the budget somehow, and it's going to go to the select board for distribution, because we're not putting it into the departmental budgets. And we struggled in budget committee a few years ago because we saw some inequity of it getting divided, and so we said we want to understand how it's going out, how it's being divided, so we zeroed out pay for performance. And when the budget committee zeroes out a line item, the select board cannot move money to that line item. So we did zero that out, which means, and then there was a lot of discussion, and they asked us to come back, and we said, okay, we're going to do it for one more year, but next year, if you don't have something, we're going to zero it out. So last year, pay for performance got zeroed out. We had a big, long December 13th meeting, and the decision was COLA, and we used a lot of the extra money to bring fire up to where they needed to be. That is the history of how we got here. Now, we've worked to try to figure out how to come up with something that is very difficult to put together. We've asked for feedback. Some towns were more than willing to help us. Other towns refused to give us anything. And we've gone back and forth, and we've tried to compare. We tried to do demographics. We tried to go through this. We've brought all of our limitations, but with these limitations, I don't want to penalize an employee because they somehow don't fit into something that we did using just job types. And that's just how I feel, but it's just my opinion, and we just trying to get some feedback so that we know we have.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
Let me
Can you
ask
put your
Chairman a question.
Can you put your
Looking
mic on?
back, you don't have to answer, but inside yourself, ask this question. What do you think about maybe 3 years ago, having spent the money to hire an expert to come in here and tell you what to do, and
yeah,
we wouldn't be here. I know go ahead. I mean, that's what I would have done, is hired a consultant.
The budget committee didn't have, 3 years ago, the budget committee did not have faith that the select board was doing its job with its department heads. Because the budget committee did not like pay for performance because it is subjective, and it is.
I know.
It has to be.
Yep.
But the select board are your local politicians. They rely on the department heads to evaluate the employees. The select board evaluates the department heads, but the department heads evaluate the employees. We have to have faith that we have the right people in place to do those evaluations equitably, fairly, judiciously, and based on the skill set. We almost don't even need I hate to say this, but in some ways the matrix was a waste of time for anybody but police and fire. That worked out perfectly well. But you've got to have some faith in the select board and the department heads to do the job. If you don't like us, get us out of office. And I mean that sincerely. I'm not being fresh. If we're not the right people to do the job, then you need us to move on. We really need a town administrator. because the issues today are not what they were 5, 10, or 15 years ago. We are looking at dealing with contracts that we have to vet through. We start with finance, we go to attorneys, we go to NHMA, spend a lot of money getting technical help to make decisions on contracts that cost us a lot of money. We've got a big one coming up with solid waste. We can't even go there yet, but it's coming. That train is coming fast. To move forward on what we're going to do, whether we're going to have curbside or not, or whatever. But you got to have some faith in us. Now, let's say it's 30,000 or 40,000. You can pick any number you want, designated strictly for raises if needed. Not everyone's going to get a raise. It's not going to be a $1,500 per person raise. It's not something split evenly amongst them all. It's got to be by evaluations. There are some people that are maxed out. We should look at a longevity clause in the employee manual so that for those that are maxed out, they get X amount of $100 a year for so many years and yada yada. Then it doesn't get on, that's the downside, it doesn't go on their retirement, but at least it compensates them accordingly for years of service to the community. You know, we've got to change the paradigm by which we work. If anything, I think we need to go for a town administrator, not a town manager, because that's a whole nother ballgame, but someone that keeps the select board in line, assures that we obey all the laws, the contracts are reviewed equitably, and not that they're not being done anyways, but we're spending a lot of time and money doing all that stuff, and we're not the experts. And one of the benefits of a budget committee is the ability to have our community residents, our fellow citizens, have another set of eyes on the budget to make sure we're doing it right. Do we make mistakes? Yes, we do. There's no question about it. And I understand I know Barbara doesn't like us to put it back in the general fund, but when there's money left over at the end of the year, it goes to reduce the tax rate. And we do that at a public meeting. So it's not like we have this big slush fund and we can't wait to spend it. That's not the case. We're all taxpayers too, and we want to get reelected. We want to continue. We've met some of the most fabulous people in the world working for the town of Kingston. Why wouldn't we want to? Long meetings like this might be a detriment, but that's another story entirely. But you've got to have some faith in us in one hand and work with us to make it work. That's what I'm asking you to do. A consultant, are we going to raise $150,000, $200,000 to do that? I don't think so.
I wasn't suggesting, I just said, looking back, if you had to do over again.
I wouldn't have done the matrix, but I would have done it for police and fire because that really has helped tremendously. And I would do the other departments like we always had.
The fire and the police chief did the matrix for you by going to, the competition.
I understand that, but they also have to do evaluation. You don't think they just move someone up on the step because they like them. They don't. They have to evaluate them. They're not going to get the raise the minute the budget's back. They're going to get evaluated.
So I'd actually like to say that I think we needed to do something like this.
With what?
Like a matrix, because what we stumbled.
For who, police and fire?
For all town employees. Because what we stumbled across were job descriptions that were years not updated. We had job titles that have not been updated. We had org charts that weren't in place. There is a lot of things that subsequent to just the wage matrix that the wage matrix kind of found out and said, hey, did you know that this person doesn't really have a job description or this position? And so those are the things that I think the wage matrix digging in with that, but if I'd have to go back and do it again, no.
And the reality is this, the person didn't have a job description, but I bet they were really good employees.
Right.
Right? So it's ultimately about hiring good people and being fair to them. That's all it is. So he doesn't have a job description. He showed up every day for 20 years and done his job. God bless him.
And we have a lot of folks like that.
I know you do.
All right, so
That's the good news.
So we do have a motion on the floor to add $30,000 to the contingency. Further discussion? What?
And if it doesn't get used, it goes back to the taxpayers.
Well,
I'm
so
still
we,
on the board next year. If it does not get paid,
cannot.
come on.
So,
God willing.
Yes.
so can I,
Account for all, every penny that $30,000. And anything that's not used will be returned to the voters. And my guess is we're gonna need more than that. That's percent. That's percent. But I will have no trouble justifying that $30,000.
Give you a chance to come, if you think it's gonna be more, where are you gonna find it in that slush fund?
in the contingency.
It's not a slush. I really think that's a Massachusetts word. Sorry, John.
Hold on. So that is the
You said earlier on, about half an hour ago, that you suggested that a few more weeks, about 8, that by the time this had to be, your wage could find the answers that they needed. Did I mishear that?
So, what we need is for certain positions to be evaluated. And then they would, but I don't, so that is one of the limitations. So
Is there any point waiting?
we can't wait. We are going to budget hearing. This budget has to be finalized and get presented to everyone on Saturday. It goes into a warrant article for a week from Saturday, and that is it. So we're making final additions to the budget this evening. We'll very quickly go over departmental budgets, and but this is, and then we can have further discussion on Saturday, but it should be pretty straightforward on Saturday. If anyone wants to make changes, they'll have the ability, but we should have some preliminary. But that's it. Any other? Because I'm gonna put this.
So in the case of our clerk Becky, I think she was grossly undercompensated for a while, and I think that particular motion was important to make. We're still absorbing the matrix results here, and we have other employees probably that are also in a similar situation, but I don't have enough information. But having the 30,000 will allow us to provide some flexibility in rewarding those people. I'm sure Paula is not far behind here as well, but then we have the Public Works Department, which the matrix revealed are being paid way above or close to the top of the matrix. And if we're not willing to reduce that area, then we have to definitely adjust the workload or the task assigned to align with what they're receiving, so that we're getting money's worth for that money. And for example, working to staff the collection center if we need people there, because we need to get much value for the money we are spending this coming year.
So I know it's late, but this is important. The matrix was looking at local government competition in New Hampshire. You've got to understand that the DPW wages are driven by the fact that they are competing against the private sector in Massachusetts. And that's why those jobs are where they are.
But compared to the matrix results, they're on the high end.
What I'm telling you is that the market, you're not competing with the matrix.
But we're looking, but we compared to, and this is, we compared to towns that are in this area that have the same competitions, the competing market as we, and I don't disagree, there is a different thing, there is an outside factor, just not towns, but they all have it. So Plastow, Hampstead, Newton, Brentwood, they have those same, they're competing against other things. But when we looked at the DPW, we evaluated on road miles and what that DPW did for employees, because it's a little bit of a different comparison. So we looked at road miles and responsibilities of the DPW. When you look at certain department, I don't have to look, but if you look at Hampstead, there may be truck driver 1, truck driver 2, truck driver 3. We just have truck driver. We don't go up. So what are you comparing it to? And that's where we started to struggle, because other local areas had, so we said, oh, truck driver, and we compared it to truck driver, but if there was advancement in that department, we didn't do that. So like, I know operators have a different, equipment operators have different ranges on what equipment they can do, and the salary increases based on how big the equipment is. So those are all things that we looked at, but our employees aren't listed as that, if that makes any sense. We have a motion. Is there any further discussion? I'm going to put it to vote. Vote. All those in favor of adding $30,000 to the contingency fund for approval? All right, motion passes.
I think this is worse down.
All right. No, for departments. Is there another item in the executive budget that needed to get increased because of contracts? Paula, is there another item in the executive budget that needed to be updated due to contracts, the assessing? Yes. Assessing?
No, 415008.
44, what? 50.
4150-08.
Okay. So that needs to be updated. We don't have a number. Is that needs to be increased, correct?
Yes, it will be. I just got it at 5:30 Monday night, so I haven't read it. It hasn't gone to the attorneys yet, so.
Do you have an approximation of what that increase is? Because we need to put it into the budget for the hearing on Saturday. Just so everyone understands, we had, I'm going to try to abbreviate this. The assessor that we had contracted for 2024 has notified us that they are terminating our contract. And since that contract has been terminated and we are required to have an assessor, we went to the assessing company that also bid on this and asked them if they were going to hold their prices, and we have gotten a contract from them that increases our assessing contracts, but they held their bid prices from 2024. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I think another thing you should mention is, excuse me, the woman that was doing the assessing for the town of Kingston that had an office downstairs,
yep,
actually went with this new assessing company, and part of the agreement is she's gonna be able to stay with the town of Kingston.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's, so she's gonna still be here, so she has the knowledge of the town, and I believe there was 3 bids, Glenn, and 3 or 4 bids, and that was the second bid in line compared to the one that won.
Yep.
So it's the next bid, and the lady, the person that works downstairs,
yep, is
gonna stay with the town.
Okay.
With the knowledge of the town.
Okay, which is and that is the recommendation from the select board is to go with this, and we are finalizing the contract, but it is an increase, so we need to increase that number in the budget. Or we need to propose that increase this evening to get that up. Yep, it's fine. I just want to make sure we address all the issues.
According to the contract, it's actually going down.
It is going down.
According to quickly reading the contract right now.
That's not what,
Yep.
it's not what we were led to believe.
It says the estimated total of annual property inspections is 24,830. In Corcoran, it's 38,620.
I think the issue that we had going that we actually questioned was Corcoran did a lot of the groundwork, which was that bid. So now this company that we now hiring doesn't have to do that groundwork. So I believe that's why that bid came down.
See,
We actually asked them to reach out to ask them that.
This is why I haven't finished reading it, so let me just read this really quick.
Polly, you're gonna calculate that? So I wanna start reviewing, we're gonna, while Paula tries to give us a number for the assessing contracts. Sure, if I can. Let me see.
From a quick look at it,
Yep.
we were paying 38,620 a year. It looks like they have multiple charges, this place, so it's, the annual estimated cost of assessing staffing services is 19,200. The estimated total of annual property inspections is 24,830. And then they have inspection work will be invoiced in the month following its completion as follows, and it's based on, residential, commercial, it's like a per parcel, so I can't really give a number right this second. So it would look like it's about like 44,100.
Okay.
Before the parcel charge,
So,
before the parcel charge.
yeah, so it's an increase once I finish reading it. I had said I didn't finish reading it, so I'm trying to finish reading it.
Okay, so right now, it's 64,246 as a budget line
There's
item.
other stuff in there.
Okay.
Because there's the Avatar program.
Yep.
Is in there.
So it's 44,000, so if we increased it to,
So for our Corcoran, in that 64,000, 38 of that is for
yep, so it would be 44,000 what?
100.
100?
Yeah.
Plus 22,700?
Yes.
So we're going up, about $2,000 to 66,800.
I'm guessing it's about 8,000, because if it's 38 this past year, it's going up to 44, it's 6,000.
No, 38 is the amount that it was in the Corcoran contract for 2025.
Okay.
And that's
So
what was
so
budgeted.
how I calculated that 66,000 is 44,100 plus 22,700. So that's the Cochrane contract plus the Sanssouci contract. That is that number. that is the request. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion to add that, since we don't really have a choice.
It's kind of a placeholder, though, right?
It is. You're gonna second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of increasing it to 66,800? All in favor? That doesn't, so.
That's for next year, right? No?
So, no. So there was a proposal at the last budget meeting to put in $10,000 for somebody to help with project planning for the recycling and RFQ and all of that. It was voted down with a 3-3-3 vote. So when we go through, right, I'm about to start, if people want to make changes, they can speak up and we can do that. So what I'm going to do is since it's very late, I'm going to go by department or total. So I'm going to go to executive and the executive budget. And if there's anything under that executive budget that anyone wants to make a change to, please raise your hand. So, executive budget. The current executive budget is $853,878.91, which is a 10.55% increase. That is there. So, is there any?
Well, we just added 30,000 to it.
We added it. It goes further down.
Oh.
It's in a different. This is just the executive. So, item number 4130, executive budget. Is there a motion to approve it at $853,878.91? This is, everyone can make changes to any line item or reduce it.
I'll make the motion to approve.
You're gonna make it? Second. Trish made the motion. Claudine seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the executive line item 4130 for $853,878.91. Raise your hand, please. All in favor. All right. Item number 4140, election and registration. Yeah.
That's a question.
Sure.
If we go through each department and no one wants to cut it, why don't we just move on and then just approve everything that we didn't cut, or we can't do that?
We have to approve each department. And we're going to have to do it again on Saturday, but this is just. Yep, it's just part of the. What? System. 4140, election and registration. Proposed budget is $23,525. Is there any questions, concerns? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Okay.
Faster.
I'm sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Wow. Opposed? Abstentions. You have to abstain. And so don't I. Oops, sorry. So just for the record, Claudine and I, our supervisors of checklist, we will have to abstain from vote on this budget. Or recuse ourselves. Well, abstain. All right. All right. Financial administration, 4150. Budget is $383,156.79. Are there any concerns or questions about this budget? Is there a motion? Trish, make a motion. Is there a second? Barbara? All those in favor of approving the financial administration budget for $383,156.79. Please raise your hand. Approval? Yeah.
Do you have to abstain, trustee?
Oh, you have, okay. Peter?
This is 5150.
5150. Oh, you have to. Yep.
41.
Yep.
So I have to abstain, but with that number that was added, is that
That is included with the new salary, yes.
So I just make sure
Yep.
I'm not voting, I was just asking.
Yep. It is. No, I have to go back and look, but yes, that is the updated number. I updated all numbers. Okay, so we have two. We have all in favor, oh, so we.
The only thing not updated is our taxes for that 104.
Yep.
That difference.
Yep. We'll make sure, yep. All right. Okay, John and Peter abstained. All right, 4153 legal expense. That is a value of $60,000. Is there any concerns? Is there a motion for approval? Trish? Is there a second? Barbara? All those in favor for approval of 4153 for $60,000, please say aye. Raise your hands so I can see. Peter? Yeah, okay. All in favor? $41.55, personal administration. $1,985,754.16. John moves for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Claudine. All those in favor? All in favor? Yeah. Okay. Planning and zoning. 4191. Budget for $137,831.30. Any concerns? Yep.
Same old, the 30,000 for the master plan, I still believe should be a warrant article. We're taking at risk of not getting the second part of it, and if we don't get it the second part next year, you've wasted 30,000. And again, I feel as though it's that we're hiding into the budget, the master plan, taking that power away from the voters.
So are you making a motion to remove the $30,000 from the budget? Is there a second?
What line item number is that?
419102 for the master plan.
Can I discuss, or do we have a motion?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
Wasn't that originally 60 and we cut it down to 30 by a vote? Didn't they originally put 60,000 in and we took a vote and said, let's cut it to 30?
And do it over 2 years?
Yeah.
Because they couldn't spend it all in 1 year anyway.
Yeah.
They acknowledge that in the.
So do we
the
not have to
discussion.
stand by that vote that we took?
So
I'm just asking, I don't know.
So we don't, because we
Okay.
could have additional information that was brought to us. What we're doing is we're looking at the budget and we're evaluating it as a wholesale.
Got
So
it.
we can make any changes. We are also allowed to make any changes on Saturday if we go back and see something we want to change.
Okay.
And just for quick discussion, because it is getting up the witching hour, and you don't want to hear me again about the CIP process that
Yep.
to this moment is still not
Can you make
resolved.
sure you, sorry.
Resolved. I've also been looking into further information during my recovery of, oh, that didn't sound very good, did it? Well, maybe after tonight it could be recovery. Different things that are wrong with the CIP, but this should always have been a CIP item. It's not $60,000 to slide it into the budget, to me, is just dead wrong. You're taking the power away from the voters.
May I address the committee?
Please use your.
I don't sit on planning board anymore. I'm not the liaison to the planning board, but just as an FYI, I mean, first of all, the remark about the CIP, master plan is not a capital project. It doesn't fit the definition of a capital project because of the way it's defined. So I realize it's a big number, but it technically doesn't fit the definition. And just to clarify one thing that was said, that if it's anticipated that to redo the entire master plan is going to cost X dollars, whatever that is, 60 or whatever the number was, the statement that if you are looking for and putting in the budget 30, which covers essentially half of it, master plans can be updated in sections and in chunks. And so if let's say the money wasn't raised for the second part of it, I mean, there are other ways to skin the cat. There are grants to be sought, staff can do some of it, but if only part of the money is raised, the planning board can choose to do the more critical pieces of the master plan. And certain chapters are more critical and in need of being updated. So I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm just trying to make sure that you have a bit more information before you.
No, I've been on a CIP. I'm a former selectman in Plastow. I get what CIPs are for. I strongly disagree with you about it's not a capital, because it is. And if there are critical parts that could have been done by others, why, and you can't answer this, but why hasn't planning board done that? All of a sudden we come up with 60,000. Then when I even begin to question them, and we're not going to get on that road either about CIP, it's a lot more complicated than that. And I do know what I'm talking
Can I
about.
add to this discussion though?
Wait, not until you hit your microphone.
I've got a big voice. All right. So if it doesn't pass next year, if the other 30 doesn't pass this year, that's on us, because it's going to be in the budget, and if we don't pass our budget, then it's going to go to default. It's going to be in the default budget. So I think that's a moot point.
Not unless in deliberative session it gets zeroed out. It could happen. You don't necessarily know.
Yeah. So we have a motion and a second. Are you zeroing out that item?
Not at this time.
So you're leaving $1 in that item? Because you asked to remove it. So I'm being very specific, because
actually, it's not gonna go anywhere. I can feel that already, so I will remove my motion for now.
Okay. Motion removed. Is there any further discussion on 4190 Planning Board for $137,831.30? Anyone want to make a motion to approve that money?
Yeah.
Trish? Is there a second? All those in favor, oh, any further discussion on the whole budget for planning? All those in favor? Please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstention? Okay, I'm just, I didn't, sometimes you shake your head and I don't see that, so I'm making sure. Okay, so we are one opposed. We can look at everything. All right. ZBA 4191 S2 for a total of $6,740. John's moving for approval. Second?
Second.
I'm just going with Trish. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All in favor, I think. All right. Historic District Committee. Proposed budget of $1,685.99. Second?
Sure.
All right. All those in favor, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, all in favor. $41.94, government buildings. Total budget of $344,963.80. All right, John and Martha, any further discussion?
I just have a quick question about why the utilities is pink, the $27,000 placeholder. Is it a placeholder or?
So that number was adjusted after the year end to be more reflective of what we spent last year on utilities. So it's just to give us this number was updated based on all the data.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any further? All those in favor? Opposed? No. All in favor? Just want to make sure. All right. 4195 cemeteries. Total budget of $29,352. Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Second.
All right, so Claudine and Trish. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
You abstain.
No, I don't collect a salary out of that.
Correct.
I don't, out of the other. That's what it's called.
All in favor? All right, insurance, item number 4196. Total of $95,693.
Motion to approve.
Trish approves, motion, is there a second?
Sure.
All those in favor? All in favor. 4197, Regional Association dues, 6,828. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. Other government, 4199. The total balance after the addition of $30,000 is $173,292.96. You made a motion to approve? Sure. All those in favor? Oh. Opposed? All right, motion passes 9-1. Police Department, item number 4210. The current total. Total is $1,149,833.79.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All in favor. Fire Department, item number 4220. $1,094,242.92. John has moved that for approval. Second. Trish. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. 4240, Town Inspectors. $140,926.40. John's moved for approval.
Second.
Claudine. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. 4290, Emergency Management. $30,251. John, Mark, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, I think all in favor. 4312, Highway Department, $1,337,426.84.
77.
77. What did I say?
Why is the director at zero?
Did
You did.
sorry. What?
Why is the director
Is it
at zero?
It was agreed last year to put it, like all the other departments, put it with the regular salary, so everything's just.
So the road agent used to be an elected employee and his salary used to be listed separately. That has been since changed, so it goes back into the full-time position.
Okay.
You're welcome. do we have a motion?
Motion.
All right, Claudine, Martha. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. All right. Street lighting, 4316, $20,000.
Motion.
Claudine, second. All those in favor? Oops, is there any discussion? No. I mean, this is 20.
Went down
All in
for
favor?
Abby.
Yeah. Other highway, streets, and bridges, 4319. $1,178,118.10. I just want to remind everyone that this does include the bridge grant. That is $1 million that we are going to be reimbursed. So that is not taxpayer impacted. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Mark? Second, okay. Mark and Martha. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. All right. Sanitation. Item number 4323. $848,513.15. Any discussion?
Motion.
All right, Claudine, Trish squeezed it in. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All those in favor? I'm trying to go, all in favor. Any, yep. All right. Health Department. Number 4411, $67,961.60. I'll take a any further, any questions? Oh, John and Mark, any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. All right. Line item 4414, animal control, for a total of $22,785.13.
Motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Item number 4441, Human Services Department, for a total of $26,939.80.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? John, are you in? Okay, just double checking, want to make sure. All in favor? Item number 4442, General Assistance, for a total of $39,150.00.
Motion.
Claudine? Second. Anne Marie? Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, all in favor. Social Service Agencies, item number 4445, $26,883.
Motion.
Second? Trish. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Item number 4520, Parks and Recreation. Total of $51,578.40. Any discussion?
Motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, all in favor. Library, item number 4550, total of $492,611.82.
Motion.
Me, Trish, all those in favor? All right, all in favor. Museum, item number 4589. For a, oh, did I? Oh, I'm sorry.
You missed that, $500.
All right,
Flags.
it's, oh, sorry. 4583, patriotic purposes, $500. All motions.
Second. Flags.
Flag.
Any further discussion?
Motion. Oh, you already took it.
All those in favor?
Yes.
All right, all in favor. All right. Sorry, now we're at museum 4589, total of $17,126.
No, didn't we add 1,116?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, we added the 1165.
All right. Yep. I will 1116. Oh, false. That's great. That didn't work. What was it before?
Before?
Yeah.
It was 17,126.
All right.
On the bottom?
I know. It's just not, Alright. 18,242.
Yep.
Yeah, for the detail, for the barn.
18,242.
Yep.
All right. Is there a motion?
Can I make a motion for a change?
You can, if you're making a change, you can do
Alright,
that.
I'm gonna make a motion to reduce the computer and equipment supplies by $600 and then add the minute taker of $600. So it would keep it even funded, but it would give them the option to add in the minute taker if they find it's really important to them.
What are we reducing, computer supplies?
The
Or,
computer and equipment supplies, which is where that huge increase was of 347%. So they could prioritize it.
all right.
And that scanner,
Yeah.
they have like all these scanners and things that they ask for, special.
Well, maybe they can find it on sale.
You can't find $600 to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that they could find that $600. I'm just opening the discussion, so.
How about just adding $600? We voted for a 25% increase in the salary, you can't come up with.
Hey, that is apples and oranges, and that is not comparison.
So,
Wait, didn't we
so
already
wait,
vote?
I'm sorry, we already voted to add the $600 down. We already voted for the $600. It did not pass. So we did that tonight. So your proposal is to reduce that number to put it back to a number that we already voted down this evening, which I do not believe we can do.
Okay.
Because we just voted that down. Now, on Saturday,
We can bring it up.
they can bring it up and we
Okay.
can reassess.
All right, so
So we need a different
motion for 18242 for museum.
Yep. Second,
Second.
Anne Marie. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All in favor. Item number 4590, Heritage. Total of $4,252. Barbara, is there a second? Gary? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Item number 4619, Conservation. Total of $32,660. Any discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Are you conservation, sorry, okay. I just.
I'm just wondering what this $1 million thing in parentheses with nothing written next to it.
Oh, I can, all right.
At the bottom is.
Yes.
Yep.
I give
That
you
sort
one
of
guess.
distracted me from the conservation milfoil budget.
It is the, but it's the bridge grant.
So if we've approved $10.8 million in money to be raised from the taxpayer, how do they get credit for that million?
It's in the revenue. All right.
So what's the new bottom line?
The new bottom line, 10,725,900. What? Oh, $10,932,832.94.
So what percent is increase?
So with the bridge grant, because we have to appropriate that, it is a increase of 13.55%. Without the bridge grant, because that is an offsetting, the budget has increased 3.07%, which is still below the 3.2% increase of the northeast area.
Yeah, coming in tonight, it was at, if you don't count the bridge grant, it was at 2.7.
So do we have any idea how this impacts Article 9? This new total? Article 9 for the
Article
tax
9.
impact. Or not pronounce my R?
9.4. What?
You wanna know what the tax impact is?
Yeah. Ballpark, because there's gonna be tax implications, right?
Well, that doesn't go into the bottom, I mean,
No, as far as like payroll taxes.
yeah.
30.
It'll be $5.07 per thousand.
Oh, no change. Oh, 502 to 507. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
We also are gonna look at the estimated revenue. The current estimated revenue is $3,932,777. This is the estimated revenue outside of property taxes. So we see that we have the 1 million in the bridge grant. If we get that grant, it's, that is the revenue we will get. We have an offsetting appropriation for that. Any questions or concerns? Would somebody like to make a motion to approve this as the recommended revenue?
So I just, why is that $1 million treated the way it is?
As an,
merely so that you all can see what it would be without the grant, because you were questioning about the grant, so that you could see what it is, what we have to report, and what it would be if we didn't have the grant. I did that for you, it's not going anywhere else.
So that's included in 3359 on page, on the revenue page?
Yes.
yeah. So the 1 million is in the revenue that it's coming in, so it offsets the appropriation.
And you don't get the grant, you won't do the work, right?
Correct. But if we don't appropriate it and we don't count for it, if we do get the grant, we can't do the work.
Right.
Can't spend the money we didn't appropriate for.
You need a motion?
We should be recommending the budget or looking at the revenue. It's part of the budget committee's responsibility to do that.
So
We've
moved.
never done. Okay, thank you. All those with understanding. Any further discussion for the revenue? All those in favor? It's a recommendation.
To go till Saturday, right?
Yeah.
For Saturday, and then the vote on Saturday. Separate votes by the selectmen and the budget committee.
Nope. So on Saturday is just the budget hearing. So it is just the budget.
What time does it start?
9 a.m. So on Saturday, okay, so are we, is that the next thing? Is that the next thing on my agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we have warrant articles. I'll just skip around. So on Saturday, we have the budget hearing, we present the budget, we go over line item by line item. Anyone present can ask for a hold on any particular item. Once we get that hold, we can make the budget committee can make a motion, or someone else can make a motion and we vote. And then once we get through the entire budget, the public can also make suggestions to the budget committee for implementation of changes to the budget, and that will all get presented. We will do, what I would like is whoever is the liaison would be the one to make that motion for that line item, and then we would second, but we will review it line by line. And then there's questions and so normally we've kind of done it as a whole and then gone to the end, but I think last year we had a lot of people that showed up and asked particular questions after we had gone through, so I'd like to do it by, like we did it tonight, by department, by line item by line item, so if the public has questions, they can ask for that line item. A lot of department heads will be here, and just in case.
So the recommendation of the vote is recorded in March on the ballot. That's on Saturday.
That is on Saturday, and then we get another, so we go through the full budget on Saturday, and then the following Saturday is the warrant article hearings, and we will vote on the final number on the warrant article. So we vote twice. We vote on the full budget this Saturday, and then we vote on the warrant article with the final number and the tax rate the following Saturday. And you still have the ability to make, the budget committee has the ability to make changes on this Saturday, but once that is done, that is done until the next time it can be modified would be at deliberative session. And those are just numbers to the bottom line because we are a bottom line budget. So line items can be changed this weekend, and then then we lock it down. If that makes sense. All right. So I did also send out the warrant articles. So we will be just looking at warrant articles from, we start at Article 9, which is the budget line item. That would be currently the number we just, and you said the tax implication was the new tax rate? 5.07. So that would be the current estimated tax rate.
What about the default budget? We have the default budget. The default budget is $9,993,358.98.
$358.98?
Yep.
And tax impact?
Yep.
Let me ask you this, Paula, I see what you did with $1 million, but we have to raise the 10.8 million from the taxpayer, right?
No.
We have to raise what?
I'm sorry. Okay, so,
So we
3
don't.
million minus the 9.8 million.
Correct. So we take the tax, the operating budget minus the revenue.
Yeah.
Plus the select board has the opportunity to pay down that amount using funds and overlay, surplus and overlay. And then that is how the final tax rate is calculated and with the assessed value.
We will know that in the next 2 weeks.
That won't be determined until November. October, November. So we'll know. So we'll know the approximate tax rate based on what we did this year, and that's how we set the town's tax rate.
It's
Estimated. Because then there's some things that they can assess.
Kelly's gonna bring it all down.
That is at 9 a.m. All right, so we won't vote on these tonight. When we meet on the 18th with the select board, we'll review all the warrant articles that have fiduciary impact. So Article 9, and I think what we wanted to do tonight is just if we had any questions before the meeting or if we wanted some clarification before we get to the hearing. 4.39.
All right, I have a point that I don't know if we can change it or not, but some people could interpret this to mean that the tax impact is an additional $5.07 versus it replacing last year's number of what, 475? And I'm wondering if we can put a net language in there. How do we educate these people?
This is the current, it's always the current tax impact. It doesn't ever show what the difference is.
Because people don't get it.
They have to come to these meetings.
They don't come to these meetings. It's gonna be cold. Maybe it's gonna snow. They gotta go get bread and milk. They're not gonna be here. So the estimated impact with the default is substantially lower. And there's no way to point out all the things that can be
Can
excluded.
I
The
ask,
big difference is that 1 million. That is the bridge grant.
Wait.
That is where the difference is.
but you said 4.39 for, that's lower than our tax rate is currently.
Yes, because no, not the tax rate, that's the tax impact.
The tax, right, the tax impact. Our section of our town is 4.76, correct? Currently?
I got 4.75.
Okay, so it's gone down,
Yes,
Shouldn't
the
we
assessment
vote for that?
but,
the assessment went up.
but the assessment went up
Last year.
before the November tax rate was calculated.
Right, but the default is, there's pluses and minuses that come in.
Yeah,
and
no,
out.
I know, I'm just, that, all right. I just need to look at that. Cause that tax rate, I would think that it would be, if it's the
So last year it
default.
was 4.81.
Last year default.
Yeah.
And
For
did
what
you say
tax?
4.39 or 4.93?
4.39.
So it's going down.
It went down this year, yes.
But the tax rate that passed last year, that was the budget, right? Or the
Yeah, the budget.
select board budget
Yeah.
for 475?
Because we didn't vote for
Yeah.
it.
All right.
All right.
Wish we could say it differently.
All right, Article 10, we're gonna, that's to allow a 1.5% deduction on property taxes when the payment is due prior to the due date.
There's no,
But we get that now.
there's no financial. They
It has to be on there
Every year.
They have to put it every year.
Yep,
But that doesn't have a financial impact.
no,
So,
but we still, it's still. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to create 2 full-time firefighter paramedic positions. Further, to raise appropriate sum of $149,888 for salary benefits and uniforms for 9 months. If approved, these positions will become part of the operating budget for ensuing years. Majority vote required. Tax impact is 0.11 for 1,000. Do we need? No,
I thought we weren't voting.
we're not.
we're discussing.
We're discussing. Any discussion, any questions about this warrant article? We're just trying to make sure we've got to see these before the warrant article hearing. Moving on. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to create 1 full-time land use administrator. Further, to raise, I'm just going to read some of it, to raise the sum of $22,588.46 for salary and benefits from nine months to be added to the $48,360 currently in the proposed operating budget. An estimated tax impact of 0.02 per 1,000. Anything? Comments, questions?
So this position currently, will this position as it's currently being compensated, will that position fall into that $30,000 bucket?
Nope, this is outside of that.
Okay.
This is the getting it to where it needs to be. Yep. And benefits. Questions? No? Article 13.
Oh, yeah.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $760,000 to be added to the fire apparatus replacement capital reserve fund previously established for said purpose, and to authorize the withdrawal of $735,000 from the fire apparatus capital reserve fund previously established for said purpose, with the remaining $50,000 to be raised by taxation. The amounts left will be remain in the fund for said purposes. The truck will be replaced. The tanker, which is 20, like, I'm just gonna talk about the money. And the estimated tax impact is 4 cents per thousand. So.
Did you reach out to Ryan?
No, not yet. So the estimated tax impact, was that calculated on the 50,000? Okay, so when I first read this, it sounded like we were asking to raise $760,000, an additional $760,000 and 50. So it sounded like it needed to be $810,000 raised by the taxpayers, $760,000 going into the fund, and $50,000 raised by taxation. Should we reword it so we're?
This was approved by DRA.
Okay, but.
So what is in, we can't really reword it, this is the wording of how this warrant article would be. And so there's already a trust fund with money in it, we're adding 50,000. The fire tanker, whatever it is going to cost $735,000. They don't want to empty out the account. So we need to make that account to 760. So to do that, we have to add 50,000 because there's only like 710 right now.
Okay. So we're raising the total sum in this fund to 760,000. And because that's not how I read this, but that's,
No,
it's not.
it's not.
It is,
No.
okay.
Right. We need to appropriate.
Right.
Yeah, and I get that, but we still have the ability during the warrant article hearings to revise it to see if we can do that, and I just want to see if we can try to clarify this, because when I first read it, it sounded like we were raising an additional $760,000.
Exactly.
And, and then it said another 50, and I kind of got confused, so can we just see if we can get some clarification? Just if we can clarify. If not, then we can,
And is this all for a tanker? The fire apparatus replacement capital fund, is this for the tanker, the 20?
No, so what they're doing is the tanker is going to cost $735,000. Right now, we don't have, we
have 710.
We have $710,000, but they don't want to zero it out in case something happens. So they want to add $50,000 to the fund and take out $735,000. So we're trying to do it in one warrant article instead of adding 50 and taking out 735. So we could do it in 2 warrant articles if the fund had that amount of money in there, but we don't have 735.
The fire apparatus capital reserve fund is what, usually it's like 100,000 that we put in every year. They voted it down last year, but it goes in, and then when we need something, that money is there.
Right, so now we need something, but we don't have all the money we need, and we don't want to zero it out.
And can we use the trust?
That is a trust fund account. Okay, can we just see if we can, because I thought it meant that, and I was like, I don't think to see if the town of Kingston will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be added to the Highway Department Capital Reserve Fund. That's a standard. And if anyone's still listening to us, it's important that we put money into these funds for our large purposes. It's easier for us to do small funds along the way instead of a large sum of, as we saw for a tanker, $735,000. So we save a little bit along the way to hopefully, and then
And on the fire, if that had been approved last year, and he went down from 100 to 50 last
We
year.
wouldn't be having.
We wouldn't be behind, we would actually have had a little bit of wiggle room in that fund.
And to be noted, the PD doesn't have any requests this year.
They don't have a reserve.
They don't have a
They have
reserve.
the detail fund.
Right.
All right. To see if the, Article 15, to see if the town will vote to create a one part-time building department administrative assistant position, further to raise and appropriate the sum of $26,869 for salary of 9 months. If approved, this position will become part of the operating budget in ensuing years. Is there any questions? So I believe that, is there going to be a separation of that position? We don't know. We're just trying to add.
This was from last year too, we had this one last year.
Okay, all right. All right, sorry.
But wasn't that addressed in another way?
No, we still have the need.
Yeah.
It's not, it has been addressed, we haven't added anything to that.
We don't have anything.
I just questioned the title.
I'm confusing it with the planning.
Yeah, the land
I'm
use.
confusing with another position, I'm sorry.
All right. To see if the town will vote to establish a revolving fund pursuant to RSA 3195-H for the purpose of facilitating, maintaining, or encouraging recycling as defined in RSA 149-M:4. All revenues received for this purpose of facilitating, maintaining, or encouraging recycling from fees, charges, or other income derived from the activities supporting by the fund will be deposited into the fund, and the money in the fund shall be allowed to accumulate from year to year and shall not be considered part of the town's general fund balance. The town treasurer shall have custody of all monies in the fund and shall pay out the same only upon order of the governing body, and no further approval is required by the legislative body to expend such funds may be expended only for the purpose the fund was created. Can you put your microphone?
This is for when the RFQ goes out in 2028?
No, this is a revolving fund. So I guess there's no tax implication, but so it says all revenues received for the purpose of facilitating, maintaining, or encouraging recycling from fees, charges, or other income. Does that include like the electronic recycling or the bulk and the bulk?
Yes, when we covered last year when we did it. Last year when we had all of the events. The town clerk was there, they took the money and went into the general fund.
Correct.
The same events, those fees collected would go into the revolving fund.
Okay,
instead,
so
to then help with the center.
So my question is, right now, we have budget line items for bulk, and we have,
You have it for bulky goods and that's it.
bulk goods, we have, hazardous waste.
We will not do hazardous waste at the collection center.
Okay, so I just, that was kind of my confusion, because it sounds like, my question is anything that we have budgeted for?
Yeah.
Because we have like bulk waste and.
You have bulky goods
Yeah.
on there and you have hazardous waste.
And so those would be, since that is in the budget line item.
So the bulky goods also is when things are left on the side of the road.
Yep.
And we have to collect those, that line item helps towards offset that.
Okay.
Not the same bulky goods when somebody is coming, like we did last year, and they want to get rid of their couch and it's $20. That bulky goods line item is to help pick up the mattresses and the couches and the whatevers that's left on the side of the road and and get rid of those. Because we have to pay a fee to then get rid of those.
So, so I'm just gonna compare this to like the rec fund or, the detail fund.
Yep.
So is it gonna be set up so that if the town incurs any expense, that the town will be reimbursed from that revolving fund? back to the general fund?
Incurs
Expense, I don't know.
Incurs expenses for what?
For purchasing of, like if you needed a dumpster to do it or collect.
Well, that's the goal, right, is to build up money so that we can then buy equipment for the collection center.
Right,
Yes,
so I guess so if you're renting a dumpster, let's say.
Yeah.
And you're collecting money to put things in that dumpster.
Right.
The town would be paying for that dumpster, so we get reimbursed from the revolving fund.
we have, quite honestly, we haven't sorted that part out yet.
Couldn't this always be used to defray the cost of the dumpsters that we're paying for?
Well, sure, it could be used to defray the cost of a lot of things associated with the collection center.
The answer to her question is contained in this, which is at the governing body. In other words,
Yeah.
it goes into that fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
For instance, the police chief knows.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
The selection of vote the money
Yeah.
out of that fund.
No, I'm
Right.
just,
You know, it's a,
Yeah.
it's, as it should be.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
elected, you know.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah,
because we have a lot of items, and when I think about everything that goes on at the recycling center, I just want to make sure that we're
trying to defray some of the costs, so it's not out of the infrastructure or whatever fund it's coming
Yeah.
out of now, to cover that cost. And again, just to reiterate, we will not be taking hazardous waste at the collection center.
Right.
We're not licensed for it, we won't be doing
Right.
it, so that
'Cause
budget line
usually
needs to be maintained.
when we have those events, if Kingston hosts it, it's in our budget, and then we pay the town.
Yes, we pay Danville when we bring it to Danville, and we pay the other town that's hosting it. So when we host it, the other towns pay us. That's what that line item is for.
All right, so then, have we, and I get that this is money is going, is there, was these events in our revenue stream for departmental revenues? It was, okay. So then that revenue we need to be updated, so there could potentially be a tax implication.
The revenue of the events that we held last year?
Yeah. So
I would say the grand total was probably $500, so I don't think that there's a huge tax revenue there.
No, I don't know what the number is, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
If there was any revenue reduction, and I get it, it's not a lot, but it should just be stated.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions on this? Thank you. And the rest of them are on registered voters, so we'll vote on those on the warrant article about giving tax exemption status.
So, yeah, I don't know if anyone knows the answer. Does the budget committee vote on those petitions regarding tax exemptions?
If there's
I'd like to know that as soon as possible.
What was your question?
Is the budget committee required to make a recommendation about those charitable properties seeking tax exemption?
Well,
there's a monetary. Yeah, it is. It's a revenue impacting item, so it would.
Yeah, I can tell. I can imagine what it is. I don't know what it is, but.
Are we qualified? We can just say yes or no, but there's no calculation of what the impact would be. I mean, we could say if they were tax exempt, what we would not have revenue, tax revenue. Can we ask NHMA if on these two petitions, because there is implications to. I know we can't, but can we ask
My
what?
question is this, because I have a professional reason for asking.
No,
I
yes,
don't
you
know
would
if I'm.
vote, you would vote because it does have tax.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so we
we
are
would.
required to vote. All right.
And you can still.
Abstain.
Yep.
The only caveat, whatever, I can't even talk anymore, I'm asleep.
You got it.
Is once these go to the attorneys and DRA before deliberative, They could say that these aren't legal, I'm talking about these two warrant articles, these
Yeah,
aren't
but you
legal
can tell
warrant
they're
articles.
drafted by laymen.
And that they're just advisory, and it really wouldn't matter, because even if it passed, there's nothing we would have to
And
do.
we'll know that for the 18th.
Yeah.
Yep,
And so it's advisory to who, the selectmen?
yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is sometimes residents put in petition warrant articles,
Yep.
and they're not legally written.
Oh, no.
And they're not legally binding, so what happens is, we still have to put it to the voters. If the voters said yes and it passed, the town does not have to abide by
Call
it.
that barking at the moon. State house. Thank you.
Alright, so we do. Alright, so there's only one other item I wanted to discuss. We talked about wage matrix, budget hearings. Our next 3 meetings are Saturday, the 11th, the budget hearing, the warrant article hearing, and then the deliberative session in February. I would like to schedule an expenditure review so that we review 2024's expenditures and take a look at that and see where we stand. That is, we started doing that last year, so I think we should do a year end so that we review where those areas are. Is everyone good with like the 3rd Wednesday in February? After the deliberative session?
So we're meeting Saturday, a week from Saturday, and then you want one in February?
One in February. So we have January 11th, January 18th, February 1st is the deliberative session, and then it would be.
I'm planning the candidates night that night.
Oh, you are?
Yes. I'm just waiting for confirmation from the moderator that we're good to go.
Okay.
And I've already reserved this room.
Oh.
What is it? The 19th.
That's fine.
How about the 26th?
The 26th? So we would talk about February 26th, and I will.
That's at 7 o'clock.
It would be at 7 o'clock to review. Will we have a final?
It's
Oh, yeah.
February 1st at 9?
February 1st is at 9.
Okay, that's 3 or 9.
Okay. All right, I will request that. All right. Thank you all for staying in the most, we're adjourning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just reminding, we are live